Oh, I'm trying to drag it out. Why can't I drag? Oh, there we go.
Good one.
Okay.
Thank you, XX Badass Lightning Wizard. Welcome, tier 5 sub.
What's up?
How's it going?
What's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
Well, not loud, but clearly, yes.
Yo, can you hear me?
Oh, God.
No.
Yes,
I
we can
cannot
hear you.
Why are they so quiet?
Volume.
Can they
Is it
hear
good
us?
now?
Yeah,
Better now, yeah.
I guess.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
what's up?
Hi, what's up?
Are you Filipino?
What?
I'm not Filipino. Yep. Yep, hello. Hi, Destiny. You'd hit the blue button, right?
Yeah.
Wait, give me a second.
Oh my god, I'm gonna lose it today.
Oh, sorry, I had your stream on. Okay. So, yes, you're pressing the blue button?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna change your mind,
Okay.
okay? I have two premises, and I hope to establish that voting blue does not actually affect the outcome of the election meaningfully, and it's mega brain dead to vote blue. Okay?
Okay.
So first, I want to make sure you understand what I'm talking about, so I'll read the dilemma and make sure we're talking about the same thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. If more than 50% of the people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% of people press the blue button, only people who press the red button survive. Which button would you press? And that's from Wait But Why on X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Alright, my first premise is that voting only matters if there's a tie. This is the hardest part of my argument to establish. Okay. So say there's 8,003 people voting,
Mm-hmm.
Including you. So voting definitely matters if there's a tie. Obviously, if 4,001 people vote red and 4,001 people vote blue, your vote is the only one that changes the outcome. If you vote red, the red tally becomes 4,002 and red wins. If you vote blue, the blue tally becomes 4,002 and blue wins. Do you agree?
I agree
So
with the things that you said. I don't agree with the present premise, but you're establishing the premise. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, what if it isn't a tie? This is really easy to figure out. So, say R means the amount of people that voted red, and B means the amount of people that voted blue. Are you familiar with absolute in math?
Yeah. Distance from zero.
Okay. Yeah. When absolute R minus B equals 0, your vote matters. And I'm going to link a little calculator I made on Desmos. So, could I do that in your chat? Where do I do that?
I mean, I think I understand if there's a difference in votes, right?
Yeah, right. So your vote just doesn't change the outcome. Shit. Hold on. Wait, give me a second. My monitor is being very Jewish. Hold on. Just
You
wait.
can't say that.
Hey, sorry.
Only I
Take it
can say
back.
that.
For
Could
me.
you say it for me?
Why would is your monitor trying to take money from you? See,
It's gonna
I
pop up.
See, I can make
Hold
that
on.
joke. You can't make
Wait,
that
hold on.
joke.
Okay. Sorry. Sure. So, I mean, the calculator sort of helps me with this, but
Can you just share
I
your
would-
screen then? Share your screen and show us.
sure. Give me a second.
You're so bad at explaining this. The thing he should be saying is that there's a lot of fucking people on Earth, and the odds that your vote is going to be the deciding
I'll get it.
vote,
That's the second.
if it's
the second
red
premise.
or blue, is so.
That's the
fucking
second
small.
fucking
It's
premise.
one
Shut up.
in like
Shut up.
600 billion.
Shut up. Okay. Sharing my screen. Look. You see this? You see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can sort of play around with this. Fuck. Okay. So if the output's 1, your vote matters. Shrimple as. So we could put it at 4001 and you'll see right here that it's 1. And this is the same thing for larger populations. If it's a tie, you change the outcome of the vote, and if it's not a tie, you don't. Okay. You still
Just for
disagree?
chat, we're looking at a math.
I don't. This is. I don't know why we
stuff.
needed a graph for this. I understand.
I'll
yes.
tell you right now.
You don't need the graph, you just
This
need
is
the math for
why engineers need product managers. Just so
True,
you know, in
true.
case the engineers think they can do everything,
True.
this is why. It
This
solves
is the type
problem.
of products they build. Yeah. True.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are your thoughts?
keeps going.
Well, I mean,
Does it?
in general, when it comes to like moral principles, I would hope that these are universalized throughout society. So I would never make a statement like whether or not I do this action only matters if I am like the one deciding vote on this particular thing. Like whatever thought process I have, I would hope as many other people as possible emulate that thought process or universalize that moral principle. Otherwise, you can make the same argument for not voting or not participating in anything where, you don't have more of an effect than the next person does.
Yeah, I think it's dumb to vote. So okay, I'll move on to the next premise. And I'll show this and we can come back to that. Okay. Hold on, give me a second. Wait.
You think it's dumb to vote like in real life?
Yes.
As well?
Yeah, like in real life. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same reason. You're making a choice. You're not voting for other people. Of course, I would want blue to win, or I would want, Kamala Harris to win. But me voting does not actually change that. And if you're making a choice on whether or not you vote, what matters is the effect of your choice, not the effect of your choice if everyone else emulated that. Okay?
I mean, I don't think I agree with that, but okay.
Well, what's the effect of your vote if you vote blue?
Well, I don't think it's just the vote. I think I would say it's the thought process and everything else behind it as well. And then what you would advocate for publicly as well.
Oh, you don't get time to advocate. You just
Yeah,
get
that's
shown
right.
the option.
I'd say it happens immediately. So.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of what would you rather be in the woods with when you ask it to a woman? You're like, a white man, a random white man, or a bear? And they're like, I'm not sure. It's just completely performative. Because I guarantee you, every person, if you ask them this and it was on the spot and they had the answer, the only answer is red. The only answer is red.
Sure.
And everyone that
Sure.
says blue is performative.
All right. So by the thought process behind it, you mean making that choice out of a moral perspective is good. You're not making the choice based on what the outcome will be for other people or for yourself. It's really just what you care about. It's the fact that you want to save a bunch of people. Is that it?
Yeah. You would be, this is the thing that you would advocate for. This is the more position that you hope most other people in
There's no
society would share.
advocating.
Yeah.
There's no advocating.
Dan, this is Steve's time, please.
He's
Let
objection.
him.
Yeah, I just don't really get it. I think if I'm in this box, I'm pressing red. I think
And then you lie
because you're saving
and say
yourself.
you press blue.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
Same
that's
for
what I would
elections.
do.
I think if maybe, say if you advocate for Kamala Harris, maybe 100 people are going to vote. But so it still wouldn't matter then. So we could figure out the probability of a tie between two candidates on a ballot by using the binomial tie probability theorem. Okay?
Stop. If it's more math,
So-
I don't understand why you. No, actually, never mind. Okay, we're done. Pick him out. This is a troll. Go.
No.
Okay.
He's gone. That was a tier 5.
Nice.
Thank you.
He said no a
Who
lot
was
of
it in
times,
chat?
though.
Who was this in chat?
I have no idea. I just know that they were tier 5.
Well, how are they able to join
Alright.
him? It's not a. Or how do you? They don't have the
left.
name.
They're
That's
smart. But now we don't remember.
Well, they just had some. I don't remember this retard's name. He had a
Okay.
stupid name. It was like XX something.
Okay.
XX Pussy Slayer. 61.
Joffrey Skywalker. Very nice name, my friend.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my god.
Even better microphone.
Yeah, all right. Hey, what's up, man? Go ahead.
Hear me? Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you, bro. Loud and
I can
clear.
hear you.
All right, I want to talk. Okay, I want to talk to you about the debt, the deficit, and why we don't need to raise the retirement age. We just have to stop electing Republicans.
Okay.
So I think in the past you've advocated for potentially a need to increase the retirement age. I think we increased it last in the 1980s. I don't think we need to do that. We really just need to go back to the pre-Bush tax structure, and then do the reforms for the IRS to decrease the tax gap. There's no need to fuck with the retirement age. We just got to stop getting these Republicans in with horrible tax systems and needless tax cuts.
Okay.
Do you agree with that? We don't need to raise the retirement age. We just have to stop.
It would
electing
just come down to the
Republicans.
numbers. I don't know, whatever the numbers are. Sure. If the numbers work out that way, then sure.
Okay, so it's hard to say for sure, but we can probably get $800 billion per year by going to pre-Bush tax. So that's the pre-2001 and pre-2003 tax decreases that Bush did. So that's $800 billion per year, and then it's like $300 to $600 billion per year for doing for decreasing the tax gap. So the tax gap is like $600 billion per year, but you probably wouldn't get all of that necessarily, but if you significantly reduce it, you can get up to $600 billion per year. So that's over $1 trillion. And then I think most experts don't think that you need to you don't need to balance the U.S. budget. You really just need to get our deficit to under 2% of GDP. So right now, I think we're significantly above that. And I mean, who knows when Trump leaves? But right now, at least, if we were to count on some growth in the U.S. economy, and then we were to also implement the two things that I just suggested, and then maybe, I don't know, probably cut ICE maybe, or even mildly reduce defense spending, I think you get there using significantly less painful measures than by doing something like increasing the the age of retirement. The other thing about increasing the age of retirement is that you don't get as much money as you think you're going to get, because you'd have to raise it not just by like 1 year, but raise it significantly. So right now we have what is the retirement age?
So
It's like
65?
67.
65.
Yeah. Well, it depends on like just taking Medicare versus taking Social Security. It's different for those two things. But we already did increase the retirement age once in the 1980s. And I mean, we're still in the same position. And we already have a retirement age that's greater than most European countries. So it's weird to me that the first thing we're going to is, oh, we need to raise the retirement age and do this really maximally painful thing that the entire U.S. electorate doesn't like. That is, that's a lifestyle that will impact the lifestyle and millions of old people, but we can't implement like mildly responsible tax policies first. Like it feels like we're going to like the hardest, most painful thing before we've implemented like other like no-brainer reforms. And this is even before we get to do any more creative tax things, like I don't know, doing some sort of like increasing capital gains. Like we could increase capital gains a bit for like 30 billion per year or something. I think per year of retirement age you decrease, you get, or increase, you get like close to 100 billion per year is about what you get.
Okay.
So do you agree with that? We should not re-raise the retirement age. We should do other reforms first.
Sure.
100%. We should not raise the retirement age.
Okay.
Okay, so
what
you
is
agree.
what do you think my position on the retirement age is?
I think your position is maybe we should raise the retirement age, maybe not. But I think you kind of go. I don't think I've heard you give like a strong stance.
Yeah,
on
my
we should
position is
definitely not
my
raise the
position.
retirement age.
Well, no, because I don't have that stance. My position is that like that maybe that's the only way to shore up like Social Security or whatever. And insofar as if that were the only way, then I guess maybe that's what we have to do. But if you're telling me that like by rolling back the Trump tax cuts or maybe even going back to a pre-Bush era tax structure that we could afford it, why would I say no to that? Do you think I just want to raise the retirement age because I'm evil and I hate old people, or?
No, not necessarily. I don't think that at all. I just think it's maybe. I just think it's a factual thing.
Well, sure, but I mean, like, you're telling me this. Like, I haven't seen the numbers. I don't know what the... But, I mean, if you could raise enough money without touching the retirement age, then obviously that would be highly preferable, right?
Okay, but I'm not just trying to get you to agree to the hypothetical. I'm trying to get you to agree to it in reality.
Well, but I don't have the numbers in front of me. I mean, taking everything you've just said to be true, if that would be enough to address our debt and deficit, then yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. What do you... Okay. I guess I can't prove to you. I think you could just... I think any cursory Google search will show the tax... I think you've given the tax gap, and then the 800 billion one is a little bit more iffy, but I think that's a fairly strong claim, just because we cut taxes by so much. But okay.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
right.
I don't
All right. I love you.
Thank
Be
you.
careful.
disagreement after that.
Jory,
Yo,
Yo.
your mic sounds good. Let's go.
is it actually or you're trolling?
No, it's good.
You're good.
Okay, sick. Yo, so I was wondering, what is like your actual take about Section 230? Is it like, are you trolling half the time, or
I don't know what in reference to what.
like do you like unironically believe we should just get rid of 230 for people who have like algorithmic feeds like YouTube?
Maybe. I think the For You thing, when it comes to like news and media, I think has been one of the most destructive things. Like, I don't know if our country can survive that technology. So if the way to combat that is by repealing Section 230 protections from companies that have it, then my guess is they would probably just get rid of algorithmically generated content feeds, and that would solve that problem. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, it's tough. I just don't know how, if you have that, like, I think YouTube's For You, at least for now, has like worked decently well, like compared to Twitter, where it's just like a rewards like the worst behavior. But like if you just have like a blanket thing where it's like 230's gone and now YouTube can't like recommend shit and it's just like a subscriber feed, there's no discoverability. I just don't know how you do that with the massive amount of liability that you put on the table when you get rid of 230 for that.
Well, they wouldn't have.
You have, like,
They would
any-
still have 230 because they wouldn't have the algorithmically generated For You page.
Right, but you, like, realistically speaking,
How do
YouTube
you-
doesn't work without.
Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna go. Wait, how old are you?
Yeah, 22.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, so I'm bridging the divide here. So way back in the day, we had these things called collaborations and then another thing called word of mouth. So like sometimes when a video
Yes.
was really good, so it's weird for you guys because when you guys see something you like on the internet, what you do is you send the reel or you send the tweet or you send it to your friend and you're like, oh my God, have you seen this? And every single time you do that, they always say, oh yeah, I've seen this and it's funny because you're never showing your friends new content because they've already seen the exact same shit you've seen because you guys are already on the same algorithms. Back in the day, that wasn't always the case. You would send like your friends things and they hadn't seen them before and then sometimes they would share it. Sometimes other people would talk about it on their YouTube channels. There are tons of ways to advertise things that don't require a heavily curated algorithm to shove particular content in your face. I think we did it one point in the past. It's not going to be as efficient because obviously having an algorithm read every single word and image on a video and then recommend you exactly what it thinks you want to see is going to be more efficient. But like it is survivable. It's possible. You can do it. Just going to make a little bit less money.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would
understand-
argue that you could do legislation that actually makes it quite simple, saying because obviously, for instance, if you want to use Reddit and you subscribe to like the sports section or something, you're only going to want to see sports content. So I think the way that they would put this in practice would probably be something that's you're only allowed to use like a maximum of 3 factors to create someone's algorithm, and that's it. So you could be like, they like sports, they're in the United States, and they're over 18, and that's it. And that would be the only targeting abilities that you could do, as opposed to right now where they have a million factors. Like, well, he also follows Steven on Twitter, and he follows this guy on Twitter, and he follows that guy on Twitter. So probably it would be, I think the safest way of doing it is having a level of restriction of how much targeting could be done, and because there's going to have to be some. Because without any targeting at all, if I go to YouTube, how does it even know to send me like English content or Japanese content, right? It has no fucking idea, right?
Well, so there's a setting in your profile for language.
Okay, what about if I'm
you
logged
just got
out?
blown out?
No. So I'm sorry if I'm on a computer and I'm a Spanish speaker, and I go to Reddit and I click into something, I should start seeing Spanish content. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, you can change the language on Reddit to Spanish.
Okay.
Dan, you got cooked.
No, it's silly, right? Like
back to the YouTube example. I kind of the issue with that, Dan, is like if you were to do it would have to be like purely like the uploader tags the video as like this is a sports video, right, or something like that, and then it goes on the sports list because it couldn't be algorithmically determined, right? Or you're saying you would allow like specific algorithms, like very limited ones, to retain 230?
I mean, I would say, like, if it was my suggestion, because I do think Steve's right, that it's too much right now, and that, like, Steve was talking the other day, like, his entire Twitter feed was nothing but, like, anti-Hassan slop, for instance. I think that that's a problem. And I think the solution to that is that websites only have a certain level and number of options that they can do for targeting that For You section. Like, right now, they can get extremely narrow and be like, okay, he's liked this, he hasn't liked this, he did this, he didn't like that, all those things. And I think the solution to that is just having them go much more generic, which as a result of going more generic, I think lets them still get mostly what they're looking for, but also doesn't allow them to do the outrage click farming.
Yeah, I feel like there just has to be a easier solution. Like I don't know it, so obviously I would say it, but like there's got to be a better solution than like you get rid of all algorithms or like you do like tagging stuff. Because Dan, while I like kind of like your solution, it's like it's gonna be so impossible to like legislate. And Destiny, you would admit that like you would lose a shit ton of discoverability if like your way got passed. Like even newer people on the market, like newer YouTubers or whatever, would like. Yes, you could manually share videos between people, but like, how do you ever like find the first video? It would literally fucking turn into Twitch with like no discoverability at all. And like, I think discoverability is what makes YouTube's like.
Well,
actually.
like the whole internet used to be like this, right?
Yes. But like YouTube, even back then, had a homepage, right? It was like what the top
Yeah, but the
videos or like
homepage
the
would be it could be top videos on YouTube at the time, or it could be like on a hot recommendation like Reddit, but it's also going to heavily be influenced by what you're subscribed to.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I
We
really
used to
like
curate
the.
our own algorithms by clicking the
think I did.
subscribe button.
I mean, that's not a bad idea, what Mooten's saying. Like, that's kind of Reddit. You almost make your own algorithm a little bit based on what you subscribe to, right? Like, if I only subscribe to the 49ers Reddit, that's all the content that I'm going to see, and I won't see anything else. So it's not a bad idea to
No,
let
but like,
users...
I mean, you do that when you join Twitter. It says like, "Oh, what are you into?" And then you pick like 10 things or whatever, and then you
Yeah, but
continue on.
it's meaningless, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they
Still,
have
it's going
algorithms.
to push fucking Elon down your throat regardless.
Twitter. I don't know what you need to do to Twitter because I don't like, regardless of your position, Destiny. I don't think 30 is actually going to go. I don't think that's like it's just not possible. There's too many people who lobby for it. I'm not saying like lobbyists in a bad way. You know what I mean? But like, it doesn't make sense to get rid of it. I don't think. But I think there needs to be something specifically done with Twitter. Have you guys seen like the unmarked ads that happen on Twitter your feed now? There's like I keep getting when who was it the Trump assassination thing? There was like 40 in my like regular following feed. There was like posts from conservative influencers saying like Trump is a hero. The left tried to kill Trump. Like a bunch of these like ads. They weren't marked at all. Had no label. The only like way you could tell is it doesn't have like a time on it, and that shit needs to fucking go.
Really?
I don't.
Okay, yeah, that's bad.
I mean, that's incredibly bad, but I feel like that's probably a mistake versus a intentional thing.
It's promoted tweets. If you
Yeah,
promote
I
a
understand
tweet,
that, but they say promoted tweet on them.
no, not on Android at least. I don't know. And then on web, I don't think they do either.
I mean, there was probably a bug. Is what
All
I'd
right,
have
well-
to guess.
Good,
Oh,
good call.
We love you, buddy. Be careful.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Ciao.
Damn. What do you want, Radiant? Oh wait, prying mind drained.
That was me. I'm sorry. Hello, can you hear me?
Christy, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, Moot and Destiny. All right, I'm gonna get straight to the questions. I have two meta questions. One of them Moot already knows what it's gonna be, but the first one is, what do you, Destiny, think that the purpose of my call-ins is? And that's because I'm not quite sure if you know what my purpose of me joining here every single week almost is.
Well,
To give me more effective rhetorical tools to convince people of whatever ideas I'm trying to convince them of.
Let's get stuff posted. Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not. Okay, so it's like 50% of disagreement, but it's not so much disagreement on the ideology, and it's like more like you have like an 8x scope on your M416 when it comes to like ideology, and then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you like a 16x scope. It's not so much that like
Rust player
maybe
spotted.
maybe it's going to fit on the M416. Maybe you're going to land a better shot, but that's what I'm trying to get here. I'm not trying to join here to like troll or like stall forever and like whatever the fuck. That's my main point here, and I generally do
all
have.
right, let's
like
get to the question.
Yeah, all right. So the question: would you be down to having a one-on-one convo? And I will explain why. It's because I'm painfully self-aware that I'm kind of sneakoing the entire chat and kind of the rest of the call-iners. But I do have like genuinely like 50 different questions that have been on my mind that I've been meaning to ask you, and that will probably take like 6 months worth of call-ins. I could do that. I can keep calling in, but I don't know if chat likes that idea. So I'm also trying to keep in mind that
Do you
you're
want to talk to
live.
him one-on-one?
Yeah,
Off stream?
On.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like it generally doesn't matter.
Well,
I'm
you got
fine
it
with
right
off-
here.
It'd be funnier
You
if
focus
it was
on
off
one.
stream.
Well, he's at. Yeah.
We'll keep doing one call in per.
That's
one
what I
question
said. All
per
right,
call,
get to
yeah.
your question
All
now.
right. Next one. Why do you think Asmongold doesn't want to debate you?
Because it's only negatives. There's nothing to gain from doing that.
So, remember when I said like a few call-ins back that he himself is a vulnerable NPD type. I genuinely think that when it comes to Asmongold, I don't think this is more like a protecting his. I mean, he does kind of want to protect his narrative, but not for the reasons like most right wingers would want to. I genuinely believe that Asmongold wants to protect his own ego, and I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory. Remember when he had that debate with like Hassan on like Israel Palestine in 2024?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think happened? Why he got banned? I genuinely think that he went to Dan Clancy to ban his ass so that he doesn't appear a weak pussy for having his ego destroyed and not wanting to stream because his ego got so destroyed by fucking Hassan of all people. he got hold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but definitely not. I think it was definitely because I think the comment was too far about how they should. It was basically a genocide all Palestinians comment is how it was interpreted. Yeah.
Yeah, that might have also helped, but it's just a little bit of a conspiracy theory. Okay, about Hassan, have you seen that one clip with like the guy Your Rage, was it?
Yeah.
Where he talked like he was on stream.
Mhm.
Remember? Okay, so remember when I told you that like when it comes to Hassan, you should always consider he's also a NPD type, like not narcissistic, actual NPD. Remember when I said that when it comes to Hassan, I genuinely think that his narcissistic ego comes first and foremost. Remember, like what he like. If you can recall the clip, do you remember what Your Rage has asked Hassan? Like, and what Hassan has replied when he asked, "How can you do these news broadcasts on stream all that long?" Remember what Hassan has said?
Well, I mean, I'm guessing you want to get to the point that one of the things he brought up was viewership.
Yes, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, he the way that Hassan has expressed that it was something along the lines of well, what did it say? Oh well, I have to do these news segment because 10,000 people would just leave. Like that's what he said. Mm-hmm. That goes to show what his actual priority list is when it comes to like talking about the news or these podcasts. It's like ego stroking first, and like why do you think that like Hassan and Asmongold want to fucking stream despite the fact that they're filthy rich? Why do you think that is?
Well, why do they still stream? I mean, they like the attention and they like
exactly. That's what a narcissist craves first and foremost. They're more.
But then why does Steve stream?
Well, I mean, Destiny has like goals to achieve, right? Like he has political achievements that he wants to accomplish, right?
Yeah, let's go that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
it's hard to separate out it's hard to separate out the streamer from like the, I guess if you're, depending on how you view narcissism, because technically every streamer wants more viewership, right?
Yeah, but there is a discrepancy in it. Like it behaves in that like that like need for attention behaves differently when it comes to like an actual diagnosed NPD, because like, let's be honest, everyone is slightly more inclined to be more narcissistic because of the way that the world works. I would be willing to accept that. But like, when it comes to Asmongold and Hassan, like these are not just like your regular old slightly narcissistic people. They are actually NPD. And I mean, even in the email, I have brought up plenty of like proof from videos that they've made years and years ago, where he. Like both of them claim that they don't get empathy. Like it's just
Final
like,
point.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I mean, oh yeah. There's one more important, very very big question that I do have, and it's kind of pressing.
Go ahead.
Okay. What do you think that the solution should be to the unfounded entitled expectations that you get when you that you get all that you desire to get by voting in a guy, with the assumption that the guy who's been democratically voted by you will fulfill all of your desires, no matter how outlandish and heinous they are. Think about like the people that said just obey when like Renee Good and Alex Preddy got killed. That is an expression of that, because just obey, translated from what they actually mean, is just give me my fucking all deportations that I want. Just give me what I want. I voted for this. Like even Asmongold himself has said this. Like that was the issue. We voted for this. He didn't, but like we voted for this. I want this. That's how. And it generally bothers me. Like how can you? How are you supposed to address this thing that you can't just get whatever the fuck you want through the democratic process? Like even the most heinous, selfish, outlandish desires. That's generally how Asmongold thinks. That's even before being political. Like he always said, "Oh, why are you protesting on the streets? Or you're going to the no kings? Or you cast a vote, we get what we want for 4 years." How do you deal with that?
I mean, you would just say that's not how the democratic process works. Just because somebody wins an election doesn't mean they have carte blanche to do literally any possible thing they want. That's a really naive and dumb way of viewing politics.
Yeah, but like I mean, it's obvious that would be the answer, but it's also obvious that would not be enough. Like how are we supposed to like bring the people to the table and like listen, like there are like limits to what you can get from the democratic process. It's not you can just like, I don't know, you expect to get something from voting and you get pissed that you don't get what you voted for.
All right.
I mean, I would repeat that. I guess it depends. I haven't fought somebody who's represented that position to me in a debate before, so. But.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Be careful.
All right.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
the discussion. Take care.
See you next week.
All right. See ya.
Shirveen.
Oh no.
Hello. Hello,
hello.
Prying Mind, Lucas, Dan, Steven. How's
Hello.
everybody doing?
I'm good.
Oh fuck.
Wait, hold on. Let's just sure as in the word sure.
Sure.
And then veen like bean. Shirveen.
Okay. Shirveen.
Sure.
There you go.
Sure thing.
Okay. I think everything with the DNC and John Favreau analysis is wrong.
God.
What? It's content. It's content. No, but I'm serious. So let's go
No,
through.
it is, yeah.
Well, it's good for the world. We need to win. You today have been saying that like part of this is just that John might have been bad at that interview. I'm curious, like how much do you fall into, hey, that was poorly executed versus that was too much hit PC versus you don't like it at all? Like where are you now, Stephen?
I mean, it was definitely way too much of a hit piece. Like if the goal was to be a hit piece, I think it was well done as a hit piece. I just don't know why we're hit piecing our own people.
Okay, so I think the challenge is whether we think pod save and kind of like the ecosystem counts as part of the democratic infrastructure or not. So I'll start with kind of a notion that we can work from it. Like, I think that the credibility crisis on process inside the Democratic Party is real enough, and we can go into like, okay, is it actually what they do, or is it just how it's represented? But it's real enough within the base, within people who we want to be part of the base, that addressing it kind of viscerally, which you could say doing a piece on PodSave on Ken Martin does, is a good thing.
Okay. So as a quick heads up, because this is this entire conversation is going to be you presenting an idea that you think would be really good to happen. It's going to be me agreeing with the idea, and then it's going to be me stating that while that would be a great idea, that's not what the show was. That's just my.
Okay,
But go ahead.
so where do you think we disagree?
I think having challenging interviews is fine. I don't think that was a challenging interview. I think that was literally just a hit piece. I don't think there was any way that Ken Martin could have come out on top of that, given the fact that he corrected John multiple times on facts that he was just completely and totally incorrect about over and over and over again. And then I think that if that was going to be a super critical interview, one, I'm not entirely sure why we're giving our own super ultra critical interviews unless they're just like explicitly not part of, I guess, the Democratic Party or don't see themselves as part of that. And then three, I think it would have been good for Ken to know that that was the type of thing that he was walking into, because it seems pretty clear that he had no clue that that's what he was walking into.
That last one I agree with. I don't know that I agree with the rest. So, like, hold on. So one of the things that I think is interesting here is like whether or not it's valuable to have infighting. And I think there's some of this is coming from what I can agree with, which is like what the left and Hassan do, which
You're
are
just as a heads
critical
up,
for
you're about to give a whole bunch of stuff that I agree with, but it's not what happened on the show. But go ahead.
Okay, what do you think happened then? Be very clear.
Well,
I mean,
you just
again,
said it's valuable to have infighting. I'm not going to disagree that some level of infighting
Okay.
is valuable, but that infighting isn't where you ambush the head of the DNC on a relatively
when you say
popular
ambush, right? He brought up something that Ken Martin said he was going to release, it's also something that if we think about the
Ambush is when
credibility
you
crisis
are-
going on the process side, right? Like keep in mind something about the
ambush-
Democratic Party.
Sure.
This
Ambushing
is a
is
party-
when you quote mine and then you're setting them up with quotes and you're not even really substantively addressing the responses you're giving you, but you're just moving from one quote to the next. That's like an ambush hit piece style. We should probably literally never be doing hit piece style interviews on our own. You can still have critical interviews without being a hit piece, but
What do you think is when you say hit piece? What's the difference in a hit piece and a challenging interview? I guess. Is it just that he kept going down a list?
yeah, on a hit piece, you basically can never win. You're never going to come out of a hit piece looking good by design.
But wasn't Ken Martin's choice the thing that meant he could never win? I don't think that I see another out.
What do you mean?
It's the fact he's not releasing the report and doesn't have good excuses for why. That
Did he
didn't
not
allow
have,
him
well,
to.
one, I'm not actually sure if he ever said he was going to release that report publicly now. I don't even think that was true, number one.
Seems like it's true, but I hear you.
Yeah, and then number two.
Hold on, I'll read the quote after.
Sure. We'll read it right now. Fuck it.
I gotta find it. Political Ken Martin. 1 second.
How are you, Prime Mind?
I'm doing okay.
All right. At the time, he was questioned why the DNC hadn't released its 2016 autopsy. When he questioned what happened with that, was there any utility in doing that? And then he says, of course it will be released, Martin said in February, referring to a future review of the 2024 election. There has to be some lessons that we glean on that so we can operationalize it, not just here in DC, but through all of the 57 state parties, and of course the county parties, so people have a sense of what we need to do.
That's very clearly a statement indicating he's going to release it.
To the public?
The only thing you could possibly do is say that, the fact he said lessons in that sentence and said lessons in the John Favreau interview
Wait.
is like the stretch.
Here's the full quote, Steven, if you want to. And then if you want the article, I can send it to you too.
Hold on. What does he say when he says, of course, will be released, referring to a future review on the 2024 election? There has to be some lessons that we glean on that so that we can operationalize it, not just here in DC. What does that quote come from?
In comments to reporters, Martin committed to the public release of the 2024 report. That's
Yeah,
what it
but I'm
says in
curious, what
political
was the
article.
question
Can
before
you
him?
pull this up in Discord, Steven?
Here, I'll send it to you too.
Or somewhere? Yeah. Thank you. This is complete plus one.
Because it sounds like the way that I read when you say there has to be some lessons that we can glean on so that we can operationalize it. That sounds like a party-related thing, not just here in DC, but through all the 57
Hold on,
state
but what's
parties.
I want the same thing as you do. What's the question? But it's an article, so we're not going to see the preceding question. But certainly the way this is framed and the way the DNC has framed this for years has been it's about the full report.
For years?
I mean, this is a discussion that's been ongoing. Yeah, seeing what we're in 2026, so it's not like that.
Oh, sorry, fuck, I forget the fucking time. Never mind, you're right.
Yeah.
It's been years since the election. Well, a year and a half, yeah. I'd be curious what he's responding to. I mean, that would definitely change my perception of it. So, like, if a reporter said, "Are we all going to see the autopsy or whatever?" and then his response is this, then I'd say, "Oh, well, here it sounds like he was talking about releasing it to the public." But if it was like, are members of the Democratic Party going to know what was in that autopsy or something like that? Then that would change how I would review it. If I give this the worst reading ever, then I would just say that he shouldn't have made this promise. It was a stupid promise to make. But I don't know if it would necessarily change the way I would.
Which, by the way, you also keep saying that he's gonna. And someone in chat pointed this out that he said he's gonna release it to certain leaders, and a lot of the people have. I don't know if John was accurate about this. Ken did not refute it. I think the leaders inside the state apparatuses are not getting this report so far either. So he's not half doing the promise at all. Like we're addressing this as if he's like
the report or the I guess the operationalization.
I guess this is the question. So then here's like the big critique that I'm going to make
as a quick thing. The reason why it's difficult for you to have this conversation right now is because of how exceptionally dog shit the interview that John gave was, because there would have been good questions. He could have said, I'm
not struggling in this conversation.
Well, no. I'm saying that when you're to bring up specifics or anything, it could have been that John said that he could have said, well, in North Carolina they really needed to rely on this for some race or whatever, and this leader came out and said that he wasn't able to get in contact with you or whatever. Those would have been really good points to bring up, or asking Ken who have you brought this up to, who feels like they haven't gotten enough from this. Those would have been good points to bring up, but because John was doing a hit piece and not an actual interview, we never actually got any of those questions at all. all. So.
Okay, let's
Here's apparently
embrace.
the full quote. I'll just read it out real quick. I
Yeah.
sent it to Steve as well. I just want to say that there was a post-election review done many years ago, right after the 16 election, right? And that was never released. The DNC spent a lot of time and money on that. Wasn't even released to the DNC members. So what happened with that, right? Was there any utility in doing that? Of course, it will be released, right? It'll be released to our members, and we will have to learn from that. There has to be some lessons that we glean on so that we can operationalize it, not here just in DC, but all in 57 state parties, and of course the county parties, so people, blah, blah, blah. That's the full quote, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, his whole frame is the right frame, which is we should be as a party. And again, this is the critique. This is the kind of overarching theme of the Democratic Party going back to basically like the 2012 era is behind closed doors, decisions happen, analyses are made, and the truth is told, and people only get the sanitized version. I, as somebody who, again, votes for the center-left candidate every single time, wants the center-left candidate to win, fights the Bernie crats all the time, I think this critique ruins a lot of how the party functions because it's real. It's real that I can't say anything when they go, oh, a lot of the party mechanics happen behind closed doors. We don't have this ability to see what the actual conversation was. We only get the sanitized version. I have to go, yeah, that's true. That's how it's always worked. That's, kind of reasonable for XYZ reason. But then it makes the party, it makes all the establishment portions of the party seem like we're trying to hide something.
Well, no, it doesn't. This is just how
Yes, it does.
No, it's how every single analysis works ever. Number one.
So hold on. What does that mean? That's not true. What do you think you're saying there? Because you've said this a few times.
Because typically when there's like an audit or an analysis or something done on a particular thing, the raw report of that's generated isn't usually sent out to every single person that's going to
You
operate.
said that, and I don't know what that means, right? So let's go, for example, to when the RNC has released this report in the past. A very full report is released. So I know that you're saying philosophically in the world of corporations or politics, there are times when a report does not reveal the fullness of its data. It's just what people put together. That's philosophically true.
No, sure. We'll go. Okay, hold on. We'll go to that just as a real quick thing on this quote before we move on from this quote. It sounds like in this quote, getting the fuller quote here, that this is just about DNC members. It's not about publicly releasing the report. Just to be clear. Because reading into more that was said here, there was a post-election review done many, many years ago, right after the 2016 election, right? And that was never released. The DNC spent a lot of time and money on it, and it wasn't even released to the DNC members. So what happened with that, right? Was there any utility in doing that? He said on Friday. Of course,
this still hasn't been released to the DNC members. Why are you defending something that hasn't happened as if it refutes the overall point?
Well, I'm just saying right now I'm refuting that it's going to be.
Yeah, you're just doing apologetics.
No, I'm refuting your point. Did you or did you not claim that that it should be released publicly?
Right, but there's a set of promises not being held. Even if you're right, there's a set of promises.
Question. Did you say that it was going to be released publicly, or it should be released publicly?
Whether or not I did, my point...
Did you say that it was going to be released publicly?
I'm not here to do debate pervetry. My point was that if he makes a set of promises about how the party works and people have a credibility crisis about the party where they talk about how process is done behind closed doors, then whether or not it's to the members or to the people, and we want to be clear about the promise, no promise was upheld.
That's great.
No promise.
And you can build another line of argumentation if you want. But you initially talked about it being released publicly, right?
I think it should be released publicly.
That's fine. And so did Ken, or I'm sorry,
Yeah,
so did
I don't
John.
need to hold on that point. I don't need to hold on that point. He's not
I
releasing
agree.
the
You don't
DNC.
have to. So give it. You don't have to hold on to it. So you can get the point.
We're not talking about that point. We're talking he hasn't even released it to the DNC. So why is it that he's creating more of a process? Hold on. One of the things you're saying here that I think is this is true.
I'm going to repeat the exact same question. I'm not responding to whatever you're about to say. So if you want to ramble, you can ramble. Go
the DNC receiving this, that promise being upheld, would at least be better than not giving it to the DNC. True or false?
I don't know.
As far as the credibility crisis.
For this
the
quote,
credibility crisis that happens.
For this quote, he was talking about, it seems like he was talking about releasing it to DNC
You're not answering the
members,
question.
right? You're right.
But you're not answering the question.
I'm not. You're right.
Right.
This was
so
about releasing it to DNC members,
if there's a credibility crisis in the party. If there's a credibility crisis in the party.
Shiveen, answer his question.
Sherveen,
sorry. Answer his question, and then he'll answer
All
yours.
right, go ahead. Ask the question again.
This quote, that now that we have more context behind it, seemed to be about releasing it to DNC members. Nothing in here was about releasing it publicly, right?
I don't. Do you want to? Is it the same political article that?
Sure.
Here is the full quote. I'll send it to you as well. Sorry. There you go. You can read it.
Actually, no. This is about an ambiguous thing that could include the public, because the first sentence says, I just want to say that there was a post-election review done many years ago, right after the 2016 election, right? And that was never released. That's one claim by itself, or one statement by itself. The next statement says the DNC spent a lot of time and money on that, wasn't even released to the DNC members. Wasn't even released to the DNC members. In other words, the first claim is a more expansive thing than only the DNC members. So actually, you're wrong about this.
So you think that when he says in the can you read the next paragraph of this article?
Why don't you just put it on your Discord stream and highlight what you want me to look at?
Of course it will be released, right? That the next thing. What does he say there?
Of course it will be released to our members. Yeah. Well, hold on. Are you asking about the question or what he said?
That's what he said, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. But the preceding thing was about more than just the DNC members, correct or wrong?
The DNC spent a lot of time and money on it. It wasn't even released to our...
No, read from the sentence before that.
There was a post-election review done many years ago, right after the 2016 election, right? And that was never released. The DNC spent a lot of time and money on it, and it wasn't even released to the DNC members.
In other words, it wasn't even released to the DNC members as an extension of an original question, as it wasn't released in general.
It could be, I guess.
I'm with you there. I don't think this is as important as you do.
No, I'm just trying to establish one thing. There's not like... that I don't think there was some clear promise by Ken that he was going to release this raw report to the public.
But would you think that it's fair to say if there's a credibility crisis, regardless of where we land on this
that's fine. We can go down that line of questioning if you want. Okay, but then hold on. I just want to make sure that we're established on this. It doesn't seem like there was a clear promise from him where he's like, we're going to release this to the public after we do it.
Fair.
Okay. What is the second line of question I'm going to go down?
So, I mean, where are you on the idea that the credibility crisis is important inside this party? I know that your entrance into politics a little bit later, so you might be more oppositional to the people that think there's a credibility crisis or that it's worthy. But again, I'd point to it's something that I've felt, and I've previously worked for Dems. Dems have felt in general. From the left, there's a real thing that we would say, okay, this is not necessarily something we think is fair in a vacuum, because there's an intellectual defense we can make around why the party works this way. But so much of what the party does happens behind closed doors. People inside the party, whether it's the apparatus of the party or the public, gets a sanitized version. When all of that is true, right, there's something I'm referring to as a credibility crisis. Do you think this is a legitimate thing, or do you think this is a fake thing, or where do you stand on it?
Okay. I think there probably is a perception of credibility crisis. I don't know if any of the things that you just brought up have anything to actually do with credibility, though.
Go ahead. Tell me more.
Well, the first thing that you said, that things are done behind closed doors or whatever, this is true of literally everything, including the Republican Party. The idea that every single debate would be had publicly seems really strange to me. I doubt that that's ever the case ever with anything politically done.
Yeah, I don't think I meant that literally everything is exposed. But there's a spectrum here, right? We have to be honest about the spectrum. So one of the things that I think you're saying is some of this stuff should be, kind of behind closed doors, reasonable. I guess the question is if we can identify, is enough being done in front of people, or is enough being talked about in front of people, I should say, because it's not that you need to have the public involved. And I'll go to, okay, let's look at what the Republicans have done. So the Republicans have released autopsies in different years where we've seen the full autopsy. They don't have to adopt
Can I ask a question real quick?
Conclusions.
How many autopsies like this have been released?
I don't know. I think it's not that many, but there have been a few.
Are you sure there have been a few?
Yeah. Well, no. Am I wrong? I thought there's literally the famous one from the Republicans they literally did before Trump, and Trump listened to none of it, and the party listened to none of it. No? Am I making that up?
I've just seen people in chat type, but I don't know. Because I saw people in chat say that literally there was one in 2012 and that it was a disaster. But the reason why it was so exceptional was because people generally don't ever do this.
Either way, I don't know why we have to this is life is life. We can decide what is reasonable, not on this notion. If it's ever been released, we can refer to something and say, okay, what does because one of the things that I think you're concerned about is how this is going to be used.
No, stop. Stop jumping so far ahead. Why do you think I just brought up what I just said?
Because you're trying to establish whether or not it's a norm.
Correct. Because one of the arguments you gave for releasing it was because it is a norm.
Yes.
And well, if it's not a norm,
no, I said there's a credibility crisis. I didn't say because it's a norm.
No, yeah, the specific one of the specific arguments that you just made was that there have been a few of these. First you said lots, and then you said few, and now we're at one in 2012. Have been released in the past. Therefore, that would make that a more legitimate strike against your credibility, right? If every single season had one of these released, and then one season
I didn't say every single season. I said some. I don't think it's just one.
I understand you did not say that, but I'm saying if all but one had been released, that would be a huge blow to your credibility. If only one in the history of all of politics had ever been released, then it would probably have no effect on your credibility at all, right? Or very, very few, very little effect on your credibility. That's so. Okay, go ahead.
Wait, now I'm actually going to look it up because we should establish how much of my credibility that should harm. Okay, while AI does its thing.
In 2023, I see an article on NBC about Republican Party officials plan to keep private an internal autopsy report assessing why many of their candidates fell short in the 2022 midterm elections. Two people familiar with the party's thinking on the matter told NBC News on Friday.
That's Dems, right?
No, this is for Republicans.
I thought the Republicans released 2022. No?
Well, no. Or if they did, it would have come out in a later article, but this is written in 2023. So I believe that the post-election analysis is meant to be for internal use only, taking the lessons we've learned so we can improve, one RNC member said. Ooh, he even used that word, lessons. I don't think it will be made publicly available.
So, now you don't want me to jump ahead, but I want to make another point. Do we have to stick on this one?
No, I'm comfortable with what I've established on this point, so go ahead.
Well, we should come back to it. I'm not finished with it. This is not an established point. You haven't won.
Sure, but you kind of established that like the Republicans did this, and now that he's fighting you on it, you're kind of running away from the point.
Well,
I am not running away from the point at all. I already released. I already have acknowledged that the releases might be fewer than what I said.
As long as we agree on the facts on this, I'm fine. Okay, but then we haven't done.
Again, this is not meant for me. I'm here to actually persuade. I do not care about kind of relenting on. Oh, it might be one instead of three. I don't know how many have been released.
Okay.
By the way, it looks like the DNC released one in 2015. There was a commission from the DNC that was released in 2017. So those are the post-2010 ones. We can look beforehand. And before the 2010s. So that looks like, again, depending on what these are, I'm going to look definitionally. The DNC and RNC have released more than one. But again, I'll look specifically as to whether these will actually apply. So let's talk about like the infighting or like what that conversation represents. I'm gonna just like make the comparison I want to make and let you decide whether you think it's relevant and we can yell about it. One of the things that we admire or resent about the right is that they always come home, right? And so like Trump can say all sorts of things about Ted Cruz's wife, and Ted Cruz is the biggest Trump stan on the planet. I don't know why we can't have this interview and think of this as a benefit for the entire party, because Jon Favreau is literally, and PodSave are considered insiders in establishment by most people. You are very alone, and your orbit is very alone in considering that that's not the case. Other than their fight.
Said my orbit doesn't think that's the case. I don't know where you got that impression from, but okay.
Wait, sorry, that people outside disagree with you, or that they agree with you?
That they're not, that the speechwriters for the Obama admin are not Democratic Party insiders, or at least were. Yeah.
Oh, so you agree with me? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm just going down a pike. So there's that portion of it. Then there's the portion where we go, okay, can they fight in public? Can we have these debates that, kind of, whether we'll call them hit pieces or whatever else we want to call them, where the spat happens and it's good for everybody involved? Because one, let's look at John. John knows going into 2028, he's going to have to fight credibility accusations. He's going to fight people on the left. He's going to fight people in the Biden camp who are going to come after him now that they've established adversarial relationship. The ability for him to hold credibility in those conversations as, kind of this establishment-ish podcast is improved by being the one to have permission to hold Ken to account and holding him to account versus having a softball interview. And you're probably going to agree with me and say, oh, there's a middle ground. But I think this is important to say is like, this is just like the first of what will be many instances of interviews where we're going to see people try to figure out what their role is in 2028. But don't we want PodSave and the DNC to be answering to John in that conversation to establish that this is a party that can have conversations like this. This is a party that's willing to actually yell at each other for an hour on a podcast and then walk away, both having established their point of view but at least that point of view was heard. Versus, again, what I'd say is the establishment crisis or the process crisis that happens before this, which is the Bernie people would tell you, and I'd say they're 20% right, but they're still 20% right, that this sort of thing couldn't have happened in a past version of Democratic Party politics.
No.
That's not a good thing?
No.
Healthy for John,
no.
healthy
I
for
just want
Ken.
to cut in that I think we should be doing these behind closed doors, not in a public interview where we're lambasting the head of the DNC. It's just a bad look for everybody, first off. And if you do have a problem with it, you can talk to Ken behind closed doors. I'm sure that he'd bring you over to the DNC and maybe even give you a sneak peek at the autopsy if you're like a campaign manager, etc., like that.
So everything you just said, I know you said in good faith, but Lucas, everyone in Democratic Party politics would understand why what you just said is what can happen. Because the critique from Bernie and his party is literally what you just said, that it would happen behind closed doors, that you'd have to know somebody or be some sort of power player, and you'd move towards the exact credibility crisis that I think causes some of the left who could be capturable to be uncapturable. Because they go, look, why does this have to be behind closed doors? Why can't we have this conversation out loud? Why do we have to hide this from more junior members of the party? That would be
Because
the
that's
thing.
how everything in life works. You don't have every single strategy meeting publicly. Nobody in the history of all of mankind has ever done that ever. That's just not a functional
No one's
approach
saying
to
have
anything.
every strategy meeting publicly. That's not like, these are not the two poles or two choices.
Okay, but the only argument you're giving is why shouldn't we have this publicly because public is better? And I'm telling you that's not necessarily true. So you
What
need
thing do you think I want to have happen publicly?
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get better at this, and you're a good test person for this because you're so crazy bad at this. I need you to respond to the thing that I say instead of immediately pivoting to another diverting question. Okay? Do you accept?
I'm not diverting
no,
shit.
you are. You have the mind for it.
No, you are bad at asking questions,
You have the
apparently.
bad faith debater mind. Okay, so I'm trying to hold to a single point.
I have bad faith debater mind?
Yes, yeah, because you're not responding to anything I'm saying. You're always setting up your next attack, and you're avoiding anything I say by just setting up the next question.
You are so Hassan pilled. It's unbelievable.
It has
Go ahead.
nothing to do with us. You just did it again.
Yes, it is.
This-
You
what
view
I just
everything
said
so
there-
oppositionally.
what
You
I
view
just
everything so
said there
oppositionally.
had-
I'm not trying to redirect.
You just redirected by bringing up Hassan because what I just said had to do with debates that I've been in. I don't debate Hassan. So what you just
Hold on, do
did,
you think-
you just did
do you
another
think-
thing right there, right? So I very clearly,
My God.
okay, I just
That's
said
not
that-
bad faith. What I did is not bad
I
faith.
said that nothing is done publicly all the time. Like there are things you have behind closed doors. That's a counter to your point of why wouldn't they do this publicly? Publicly would be better. Now, if you want to argue that there's some reason they should do it publicly, then you have to make another argument for why they should do it publicly. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What's the question I asked you?
Before this?
What thing you want what thing do you think I want to have happen publicly? What thing do you think I'm talking about?
I guess a release of this report?
I don't actually, this is why I asked that clarifying question. You diverted from that question. I don't mind if it's just this discussion.
You asked that question in response to the point that I brought up. I'm not diverting. I'm just trying to finish.
Exactly. Same thing. We're having a
That's
back and
nothing-
forth.
No,
We
that's
might not
a back
always
and forth.
directly
That's
answer.
a back and back. No, if you're not going to answer my question, I'm not going to answer yours.
There's a difference between a bad faith diversion and me bringing up what I believe is an adjacent point because we're having an extended conversation. If you can't handle that, then you're not going to be able to have conversations with people who are coming to you in good faith and trying to persuade you, or you're trying to persuade them, and it's just a dialogue. There's nothing that I'm trying to divert. If you want to always reframe your question, I'm happy to attempt to address it directly whenever I haven't in your point of view. So, back to you're right. Or sorry, you're wrong. I don't want the report to release, or I don't care about the report being released publicly. I'm neither here nor there on holding on to that point. But what I do care about is this conversation being something we can do. This conversation, this sort of debate being something that the party is capable of, that we understand different people have different roles inside the party. This goes to something we've been talking about for weeks now.
Yeah, this is not a debate. My point is that this is not a debate that two allied factions should ever have. This is just not an appropriate.
Why? Let's talk about that. So why?
Because this was a hostile interview, and hostile interviews are only set up to make one side look bad. Why would you
Don't
do
you
that
think
to
this
somebody on
happens
your
all?
own party?
Let's see if there's a lesson to learn from the Republican Party. Don't you think this happens all the time inside their apparatus?
Never.
What do you mean never?
As in, it does not happen with their party.
Okay, hold on. They literally fought about 2022 midterms like crazy. They fought after.
What do you mean they fought about them by crazy? What do you mean by that?
The party after 2022.
Who was the
Am I
party?
making this up? The Republicans.
All of them? Every voter? I don't. You're not
Hold
making
on. Again,
meaningful
that's why I
statements
tried
right
to be
now.
like, this is not what I'm asking for. I'm not asking that we involve every Democrat in the conversation.
No, stop. Don't pivot. I don't know what you just said. I have no idea what you just said. When you said every Republican fought, I don't know what that means. Every voter? What do you mean
I don't have
by
in
that?
front of me a replay, so I'm trying to say something thematic.
I'm not
Thematically, what I
asking you for a
recall about
replay.
the
I'm asking-
2022
no,
election,
no.
what I thematically remember
I'm
about
just
the
asking
2022
for
election.
Are you saying that
Yes.
there were interviews on Fox News that were incredibly challenging? Are you saying that elected lawmakers were blowing up Trump over this, or what?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't remember specifically the mechanics of it. I will say what I remember thematically from 2022's midterms is that the entire Republican Party had a meltdown, yelling at each other. Now, to your point, could it have been? It's a mixture of like, did Fox ever do it? I don't know. It might have not been Fox at all. So is Pod Save the equivalent of Fox? Might be a point you were trying to make, and that's interesting. I don't remember the specifics. However, what I do remember, it was vicious, as in people were yelling at each other in ways that were challenging to each other's, let's say, existential, kind of role and place and credibility within the party, right? And so there was this sort of sense to which you said, okay, they're not trying to hold back from critiquing each other. And the question will be after this, can they move forward hand in hand?
Okay, I reject the entire argument here, especially
Just because you don't remember, too, what happened in 2022? Is that why you reject it?
I mean, they
because
ran
what
Trump
you're saying
again
didn't
and we made
happen.
Biden
It
step
did
down.
because I reject that this ever happened, and the fact that you have no examples not even a single one that you can think of off the top of your head means that I just don't agree that this happened. I don't think it did.
Okay, let me get AI in that case before I make my next sentence. 1 second.
Jarvis?
By the way, Brian, that's a good point, but midterms are very different from presidentials, even for Dems. This is one of the things that Ken Martin could also be critiqued on. The fact that we're doing well right now has absolutely no bearing on the presidential. We've seen that even with, kind of...
Sure, but your argument was that like both sides are like holding each other as equally accountable, and we like ran.
Right, but I'm talking
Harris because
midterm
of
and
TikTok
midterm.
clips.
No, but I'm talking midterms and midterms, right? I'm comparing midterms to midterms. I'm not comparing this to presidential.
Yeah, but I think broadly the point, like it's kind of contradicted by presidential.
No, but it's not, because the midterms are very different. Because the point Ken made during the interview was we're crushing right now in elections, but actually the 2024 autopsy is about the presidential. We know very discreetly that like Dems will do this thing where they win midterms massively and then take very poor lessons into a presidential that reacts very differently to them.
I think the one thing that I'm a little confused about is like you're kind of arguing for this conversation, but like you're very agnostic on whether or not the autopsy should be released.
Well, because there's a real thing here that I think is about like whether the party can be challenged. I think John has enough credibility to have the conversation. I hope he retains it after this challenging interview with people like Ken because of his kind of past with Obama. I think the confrontational nature was not existential for Ken. Yes, it made him look bad, but I don't think he's there.
The
other
problem
than
is
from
that
crazy
if you're
people.
trying to have a challenging conversation on your side, you can have a challenging conversation without doing it in like an ambush hostile style interview. You can have a friendly, challenging conversation. It's possible to do that, where the goal is the bolstering of whatever your political project is, and both sides understand that. That was not a challenging conversation. That was a conversation that was designed to make Ken look bad.
Well,
I think it was a conversation
but John
designed to
came
make
out
John look
looking like
good.
a fucking retard, by the way.
No, only to
Yes,
you
he
guys.
did.
Only
No,
to
he
you
was
guys.
wrong about literally everything, and he got his ass fucking smacked by Ken like 6 times in the interview. He came out looking like a retard.
Well,
Anybody with a brain.
to be fair, I think that if you were on the team that John was representing, you think that Ken Martin looked horrible. And if you were just like an ordinary person watching it, you would probably come out thinking that Ken looks bad. That would actually be.
And
my
this goes
opinion.
to
I
this
disagree
goes
with
this goes to a many month conversation, by the way, is who's on the team. Because if you go to TikTok, if you go to Instagram, if you go to Facebook, if you go
nothing to do with
to
what I just said, but okay.
wait, why not?
Well, I was just addressing how I thought the conversation would have looked to people if you were on John's team, the team that he was
I'm
representing
addressing
there.
the same exact point, and the question is who's on the team. And if you go to these social media platforms where we see the sort of people on the team that I keep trying to tell you we should care about, they think that it was John who won the conversation. I think they're a much larger part of the party than this room thinks they are.
Okay.
Is that fair?
It just has nothing to do with what I'm saying right
Why
now.
does that have nothing to do with it?
It's a totally
Play that out for
separate
me.
argument. No, I'm not.
Why?
Because that's a totally separate argument. If you want to go on who's on the team, then we can do that. But that's a totally separate argument from what we're arguing right now. I was just.
I guess I wasn't saying it oppositionally. I was stacking on top. I was stacking on top
It has
for
nothing to
Lucas's
do with anything.
sake.
Literally, it's nothing to do with this current argument right now. It has nothing to do with who's on the team. My position was that because it is a hit style piece, that the team that John is representing will feel like the interview was good. And then anybody that's on Ken's team probably is not going to feel that great about it unless you're really on his team. And then people who are neutral or in the middle are going to feel like Ken did bad. That is the purpose of a hit piece style piece.
I understand what you're saying, but I think Ken was able to overcome that in this piece because he literally calls out John multiple times, and he's like, "No, you're spewing garbage."
It doesn't matter. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. If you're looking at the facts, then sure. But not many people view it that way. In a hit piece style interview, the goal is to hit you up with as many like quotes or inconsistencies or falsities as possible. And even if you're correct on a thing, I'm just going to move on to the next point afterwards. So there's not actually any kind of catharsis or whatever felt by a viewer in that like, oh, he got him there, because the interviewer doesn't acknowledge it. He just moves on to the next thing. And John did that on every single one. That's why it was an ambush hit piece style thing. There was no acknowledgement of anything Ken said when he was correcting John on one of the 20 different things he was completely factually incorrect about. It was moving on to the next hit piece style thing. That's what I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. If somebody watched the entire thing, then I would disagree with you. But if somebody just got a clip of it, I would agree with you. Yeah, okay. I think
we can find somebody in a torture chamber and lock him and force him to watch it. I think most people would probably come out thinking that the Ken Martin guy didn't look good, like neutral at best, and then probably not good in general. That'd be my guess, but.
Yeah. And the point I'm trying to build on top of it is most people here are either experiencing it through clips or experiencing it through the lens of being frustrated with the Democratic Party as a party, not necessarily as the individuals inside of it. And so most people, and again, you can see this in the social media commentary around this from the Democratic Party, thought it was great for John that John challenged Ken, who represents to them something like the hidden, kind of mechanics of the party who are continuing to hide the ball from the people in the party. And they came away thinking that was a win for John, a loss for Ken. Very few people think that Ken comes out looking good. Very few people have like the either desire to research or the history to understand the nuance of anything Ken said, and so he just lost optically. And I think that's the challenge: is how do we understand whether this was an interview that helps people? So those people in the party, right?
But the issue, real quick. The issue though is that people in that interview were not viewing John as a member of. That's why I keep saying that. That's why I keep bringing up the team thing. John is not coming at this interview, I think, what people are looking at him as like a member of the Democratic Party, where they're on a mutual mission to build up the Democratic Party. It feels like John is hating Ken as an outsider here.
Of course, he's part of the member, and this is where I think this room. And I'm not saying this is a critique. So I think like everything I say, I'm really trying to push the ball forward. It's not a critique. I think this room views John that way. I genuinely think.
Can I just skip and say everything you're going to say, because you could have already said it by now? Yeah, you're going to say that we have a bad perspective on John because we actually view John as being an outsider because we're so Hassan brain broken. But in reality, most people know that the Pod Save America guys are insiders in the Democratic Party, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's not how they're functioning right now, though. That hit piece.
That doesn't mean the perception has changed, right? So I agree with you that maybe the function has changed, and this is why this on interview being recent is important.
Okay, that's fine. Question. Super easy. If I were to go online on social media right now and view the people who are using that Ken Martin interview by John, do you think they're talking about how these are good critiques of the Democratic Party and how we can perform better? Or do you think that that's a narrative that's being seized upon by people saying the entire Democratic establishment is corrupt and needs to be replaced and rebuilt from the ground up?
I think you'd see more of the latter from an algorithmic perspective, but then I will ask you a question that I think is a useful follow-up that I mean in good faith. Okay. If we went to the normie Democratic voter in New York who's 32-ish in a knowledge worker job and follows politics kind of at again, let's call it above normie, but below, kind of politics nerd rate, do you think they would view this as John as the establishment talking to other establishment, or do you think they'd view it as kind of a Bernie style refutation of the party? And again,
I think they would view it as just that an interview that's demonstrating how completely fucked and horrible the Democratic Party is. I don't even know if they would have a view on who John is.
Yeah, which by the way, I think still goes to the idea though that there's like because they're establishment in their nature, right? This sort of voter we're talking about, and so the fact that they see this and they vaguely know who the Pod Save guys are because the Pod Save guys have penetrated culture.
Hold on. First of all, I don't know if the average. I don't think the average voter knows who the Pod Save guys are.
But you're wrong, and we talked about this last time. Remember, they have like a bunch of different podcasts now where they also have like lifestyle people, celebrities. They do games with them on stage. I don't know if you clicked the link. I started
What's
to send
the biggest Pod Save podcast or whatever?
Pod Save America is, I guess we should differentiate. I guess it's Crooked Media is the network. Pod Save is their biggest podcast, and like John Lovett has something. I'm forgetting the name of. Crooked Media Podcasts. Oh, they've got a ton now. They have a Stacey Abrams podcast.
We're about to argue over what like, how do you determine someone having the culture? What does that mean?
Or I
Well,
don't know.
and
I would be surprised if like the average person, like average voter, knew. But maybe they do. I don't know.
Of course the
No,
average voter doesn't know who.
Hold on.
what
Average
something-
voter, no. Average Democrat in a city, yes. That's my point. They've
Right.
penetrated culture in a way where, again, like they literally have every celebrity on when they like TV celebrities are considering them part of the tour now, right? So like when they have a new show or movie coming out, like the PodSave's network of podcasts or Cooking Media's network of podcasts, which again is part of how they penetrated culture, is to be more than politics itself, has now infiltrated mainstream Hollywood.
Who was the last mainstream Hollywood actor that went on a Pod Save thing? I don't have much pop culture connection, so maybe that's.
Yeah, fair. Let me actually look it up instead of closing the tab every time.
I mean, I would agree with you if we were talking about the people who do the hot ones or whatever. Like, we could have an agreement there, but PodSave is nowhere near.
Yeah,
what
like,
Hot
do you
Ones
think
is.
the average Democratic voter in a city is more likely to know the Hot Ones show or the Pod Save guys shows?
The average Democratic voter would know the Hot Ones show or the Pod Save. I think it'd be much closer than you think.
Okay, it would be much closer, I think, because I would think that that's not close at all in my mind.
Well, so I'm not that big into celebrity culture, so I don't know all these faces. But like, I don't know all these faces that I'm looking at inside this YouTube channel. But like Kathy Griffin's on here, but she's technically somewhat political. I don't know these names.
Can you just leave the YouTube channel?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, but
where do you want to put it? Where do you want to put it?
Go on to the next point or whatever. I guess
I'll DM it to you.
Okay, I feel like we've been arguing against
the broader point I was making was that like these types of like ambush style conversations are just never done between two people on the same team. That the impression is never going to be that these two people are on the same team if this is the style of interview. I don't think most people would ever view it that way.
Right, but then the question is whether the consequence of that is as harsh as if they were viewed oppositionally, right? So like I might agree with you.
Well, the consequence is just going to be on a hostile style interview. It's always going to be rough for the person being interviewed. They're almost always going to come out of that looking bad. That's what hostile interviews are designed to do.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
I get,
why
but
would
it's
you
a
ever
question
give
of
that, wait, why would you ever give that to somebody who's on your team? A hostile style interview.
Because you're trying to change how the party just talks. You're trying to change
And you can't
how
do
the party
that.
holds.
Why can't you do that with a friendlier but challenging interview?
Because I think John. So this is where I think that we should talk about the strategy of it, right? So I think John is seen and I think is trying to break out of the paradigm of we're establishment. And by the way, the Bidens did kind of reinforce this. Like, oh, you're the Obama guys. You're always going to be the Obama guys. You're always going to be people who are kind of attached to the 2012 version of establishment Democrat. You're not even attached to the Biden one, is again what the Biden camp would say. And a lot of people thought a lot of Biden's admin was more progressive than Obama's admin, which is like, I think, philosophically wrong. It's like a time and place thing. And so they're trying to break out of that mold and say, okay, actually, we're going to hold the party to account. We don't want to anymore be seen as people who are just parroting the party line. And we have more permission than people who they might now think of as like soft allies on the left to take the points that they think of as being credible and use them within the party. And so if we think about this from like, there's a credibility crisis, I think Pod Save counts as part of the credibility crisis. That's like one of the points I'm trying to make is they are seen by a lot of people
Just
as
a heads
part
up,
of the
like,
apparatus.
it feels like you just gave literally the perfect reason why this was like an other team interview and wouldn't be viewed that way. If they're trying so hard to not be viewed as part of the Democratic establishment, and then they give like a big fuck you hostile interview to the most Democratic Democrat, the head of the DNC, then it seems like, yeah, most people are going to view this as like an outsider style interview where it's just a hit piece on.
Well, maybe the distinction is whether people like care whether it's outside or like I don't think they're trying to label it. And so it's more, if Favreau's part of the apparatus and Ken is literally the head of the apparatus or part of the apparatus, then it might like they don't go, oh, these are different teams. They go, oh, the party's finally trying to have these conversations out loud. The party can finally challenge itself.
Okay, here,
rather than
just on
hide
that,
the conversation.
Do you think that that's what most people took away from that? That like, oh wow, the party is finally having challenging conversations?
I think it allows John to do it again. So even if they
hold on, no, wait. Do you think that most people would view that last interview as, oh wow, the party is finally having challenging conversations?
No.
Okay, I feel like that's my point.
Do you see what sentence I want to say next? Do you know the sentence I want to say next?
The next one will be
that the view of any particular conversation is not the important thing, right? So like Obviously, this is shocking to people and will be seen as extraordinarily confrontational. Obviously. And so they won't view it in the totality of what you and I are saying in either direction. However, it is the beginning of a shift that they might have towards the people who are serious inside this party. And John counts as one of those fucking people, right? And so if we think about this as changing tonally and changing structurally what the party is capable of, and if we do have a credibility crisis that really causes half the left to have an aneurysm every time there's an election, then I think we can reasonably say, even if this conversation was not perfect, and no conversation will be, it's the evidence of an internal dialogue, especially after the DNC goes on a listening tour, and for whatever reason, even if people misinterpret it as quote, everyone thinks this report is going to come out. Okay, we can't have the listening tour and not reflect, kind of the fullness of the lesson, not just the summary of the lesson, and expect that the people who believe that all this happens inside people's heads, inside John's head, inside Obama's head, inside the DNC person who they believe kept Bernie out of winning primaries.
Why is it that they can't do this same thing with a mutually beneficial? With a mutually beneficial conversation? Why does the bolstering of John's reputation have to come at the expense of the Democratic Party?
How else would it have happened? This is a real question. So, like, mechanically, do you think John would go?
The easy answer I gave is just make it like the Hassan interview.
Yeah, he smooths everything over.
What part?
Yeah, that's not.
What?
Hold on. That was a gimme interview times 1,000. That sounds like establishment politics.
Well, I mean, he could give him an opportunity to answer the questions that he wants.
That's establishment politics. I wouldn't have even liked that.
We're not talking about establishment politics. We're talking about an interview that would theoretically build up both of these people. No. But to build them up requires taking the credibility crisis seriously, and I think this is where the critique is valid, right? Taking
and so
the credibility
could the critique have
crisis
been better delivered?
That's a down the road thing. There is no world where you have to be giving your own side hostile ambush interviews. I don't know if you can think of a single example of Republicans ever doing this.
By the way, so I obviously
Let me repeat that. Can you think of a single example of Republicans ever doing this?
Oh my God.
Answer the question.
Do you think my answer to this question is actually a representation of whether or not this is a real thing? We can't agree in principle as to whether or not Republicans have had real serious infighting. And by the way, in the
it might not be, but if it's not, then it shouldn't bother you to answer it. So can you think of a single example of Republicans ever having hostile style interviews with their own people?
Yes or no?
These are cute. Like recently, obviously, the Tucker stuff is about. I don't even want to use that because that feels unfair. But
why?
The Tucker stuff.
That's a good example. Yeah.
I don't think. Okay, I'm trying to be fair. I guess I'm actually trying to be fair in this conversation, and you aren't because you think I'm bad faith.
I'm trying to be fair.
That's recent.
Stop. Hold on.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the Tucker Ted thing. What have I said that's in bad faith?
I don't actually think you're bad faith. What I'm trying to say is I want it to be. Oh my goodness.
You said
Yes.
you're actually trying to have a good faith conversation. The obvious implication being that I'm not. So what have I said so far that is?
I'm being mean to you because you were mean to me earlier. Okay. I don't think either of us are bad faith. Fair.
Okay, I don't think that was the purpose of your statement, but okay. Okay, so on the Tucker
That was literally
on the
Steven,
Tucker,
I think you're good faith.
on the Tucker versus Cruz debate. Do you
Yeah.
think people saw that as two Republicans who were mutually trying to build up the Republican Party, or was that more like
So the reason I didn't want to bring that up, and we can interrogate it as a good example, and fine, but I actually didn't want to bring it up because I think the way the Republican Party is splitting right now is actually quite different than what I would want to have happen in the Democratic Party. We can establish.
I agree with you there, although I
yeah.
would say that one of the reasons why it's splitting that way is because the people, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, these people are playing the role of John Favreau or whatever that right now in the Ken Martin interview. Absolutely, they are critically challenging.
You don't think
ambush
these people
style.
will fall in line? You don't think these people will fall in line?
Who?
Everyone you just named except for probably Fuentes. Tucker, Candace, who else is doing this sort of shit?
For the next election, there's not going to be a line to fall into, but I think they'll all be Republican supporters, yes.
Yeah, so no, you're wrong. They're not like, or in the way in which like they're doing the John thing. They're doing what they know their party is capable of handling.
No, I think they're trying to, but what they're doing right now is they see the winds changing and they're attacking the party in the hopes that it'll change into something like significantly different. They're trying to like morph or mutate it by attacking the party right now, understanding that it'll probably damage it a bit, but coming around for whatever the next election is. Again, I don't know what post-MAGA fucking Trump land is going to look like.
Well, so this is the point. What is the machination of the Democratic Party that we want? Do we want it to be something that has to fall in line with a specific cult leader, or do we want it to be a party where this sort of conversation can happen? And whether it's Bernie or Hillary next, as in philosophically, kind of parts of the party,
there is no style of party where you're doing ambush hostile interviews amongst friendly people. That just is never.
Didn't we just talk about examples about people who do this and the party still functions, the Republican Party still functions at the end of those conversations?
No, we brought up one, and you said you didn't want to go into it, which was
hold on, Candace. Tucker, Fuentes. I don't know if he'll
these
actually
people are all
fall into part.
Yes, these people are considered outsiders now from the party.
No, they're not. They're yes. Like,
Candace Owens,
in
the
the
one
conversation,
that Trump just truthed out a drugged out picture of.
Is
Yes.
Ted Cruz not one of the biggest Trump simps after Trump said your wife looks like dog shit or whatever? Marco Rubio, little Marco.
This was one of. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't believe I have to make this qualification, but yes, they do debate each other when they're literally on debate stages fighting for candidacy. Okay, sorry. That is a time when people will debate, is when they're on the debate stage in a primary election.
Do you think this also qualifies, by the way, when we have the congressional leadership fights? Because the McConnell and McCarthy fights were also really contentious within the Republican Party.
Yeah, and they were terrible for them. They were bad.
But the party thrives off of that, no?
No.
Everyone afterwards falls in line, right? There's
Eventually
literally no
they do,
tension.
But those were bad fights. Those were terrible fights.
Right, but the party could contain them, right? The party's healthy enough.
They could not contain them. They were horrible fights. They were bad.
What do you mean?
McCarthy's
What do you mean?
political career was destroyed. What are you talking about? He's gone for politics now.
That was not from the fight. That was from after the fight nonsense. I'm talking about at the time of the post.
I completely disagree.
Huh?
I just
hold on.
disagree.
I think you're thinking of the wrong time. I'm talking about when he won.
Oh, I'm talking
that
about
was a
when
very contentious fight. I'm not talking about when he lost everything because he literally lost his career. Yes, I'm talking about when the Republican Party fought about him. That was a majority.
Hold on. Is when they lost their seat in the House, wasn't this because of a rule that McCarthy had crafted that allowed them to?
That was part of the concession he had to make as part of the party, as a part of taking the seat.
That one vote could call, and then wasn't his whole political career past that point basically done?
Not because of that point, right? So he had a contentious fight, won that leadership, and that was part of the concession package, if I remember correctly. It was like, oh, you should be able to use a vote to kick us out. And then he proceeds to have a bad leadership. But it wasn't because of the election that he lost his career. That was the first fight. That was a representation that they can actually handle that disagreement. He then did a bad job. Or in their view,
I don't understand. I don't know. We just fundamentally disagree on everything. I don't know.
Hold on. What was unclear about that?
That fight was bad for Republicans, and McCarthy's career ended because it showed that they couldn't even hold their House Majority Speaker seat. It was a fucking joke. They had to go to even every single Republican was criticizing them, saying because they were begging.
Do you think he lost his career at the same time that he won the leadership?
I'm not talking about when he won the leadership. I'm talking about when he lost
the thing
that
you're
seat.
talking about. This is why I'm trying to make this clear, was at the same time that he won the leadership. So all the bad fighting that happened about McCarthy was at the time he was running for the leadership. He then later lost his career.
That he lost his career when he lost the leadership.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm talking about it was also very contentious when he won the leadership because they can stomach it. That was a very contentious fight.
Wait, who? Why? How? I don't remember that being.
This was after the 2022 thing that I'm talking about. This is the whole what should we be fight that they had internally. The interesting thing, by the way, as we're talking about this, that I'm realizing is like a lot of this stuff, I think was they're politicians fighting each other. So they have this thing where like they actually yell at each other. Dems don't do that either. But they yell at each other very aggressively.
Okay, I don't remember.
And don't you remember the whole fight over the RNC chair and like all this shit?
Yeah, a little bit, but
like
I don't.
huge...
But this being anywhere near as contentious as the ousting and everything, but okay.
Well, sure, an ousting should be contentious.
Okay. I don't. Okay. What is the point we're trying to make?
They can stomach all of this. The party does not at all lose out because Republicans fight and kill each other.
I mean, it sounds like one of the concessions he had to make literally resulted in his political career ending in order for him to...
Yes, but they didn't immediately use that against him, right? So it's not, I made a concession.
So because it wasn't immediate and it happened, a year later or whatever?
I don't remember. What were all the reasons that they eventually decided they were done with him?
I thought it was because he agreed with something on Biden for some piece of legislation, and Republicans were ass paying because they didn't want him to make any concessions or any agreements whatsoever.
That's an unrelated issue.
But the whole reason why they were
anymore.
able to oust him was because I think part of the agreements for him to become the speaker was that a single
So
person...
are you trying to say
Can
that,
I
like,
finish
if
my
you have a
fucking
party...
sentence? Holy shit! Part of that election that you said was so great for them, one of the things that he had to give on was that a single member could raise their hand and call a vote on you to get kicked out for the fucking speaker bullshit. And that's what happened to him, I think, after he agreed with Biden on some legislative thing. And then afterwards, he didn't win election for the speaker. And then he quit 2 months later, and he's gone from politics forever now.
So, are you trying to say that because the party can have these nasty, the Republican Party can have these nasty fights that have a rule attached to them at the time in which they have these nasty fights, if those fights happen and the party moves on, later, when the party then has other issues with the person and uses the changed mechanics, that's evidence that the internal infighting mechanics are broken?
Yes. Super simply, yes. That if and a part of an interim that as part of a fight, if one of the gives you had to make was so that somebody could push the self-destruct button on the majority speaker role that had never been lost in all of U.S. history by the majority party in the House, yes, that fight was probably a bad one for your party.
No, process versus outcomes.
I don't know what process versus outcomes
We
means.
have to legitimately say that it's okay. I mean, I don't like the Republican Party, so I don't. When I say it's okay, I'm talking about like for them, that they say, okay, we're going to elect you. You need to make concessions about how we control this speakership. That's a process thing. The outcome of Kevin McCarthy later not being liked for concessions he made to Biden and the rule being used against him is an outcome that we don't like. But the process of we think this is a speakership
that process literally was an earlier outcome. That's how the process got there.
Is it a bad one though?
Yes.
Why? Why? By its nature, it's bad?
Yeah, you probably don't want it so that a single... I'm explaining it to you. You probably don't want it so that a single person can raise their hand to call a vote on whether or not you should be ousted as the majority speaker.
But is that... I mean... You know that you're like making this a weird defense of the question as to whether infighting, because that rule was not necessarily the thing that had to happen from all that infighting, right? Like that happens to have been used against him.
I'm just
that was
saying
not a predetermined
that
outcome.
Infighting was
that was not a predetermined
infighting.
outcome.
It wasn't good infighting. It was bad if it's producing rules like that.
You have not proven that to me, other than in the fact that one of the things that they came up with that in the abstract I don't think is necessarily a negative outcome turned out to be used against him.
It doesn't matter. Even if it wasn't used against him, it still would have been bad. The fact that you're having to give that much because you're putting a self-destruct button on your leadership because you're so unhappy with, I guess, the fights that are happening in your party.
Does the Republican Party seem to have thrived since 2023-ish?
Yeah, didn't Biden win in 2020-ish? And aren't we going to win in 2024 or 2028 or whatever?
Wait, I can't tell if you're agreeing or disagreeing with what I asked.
No, I don't understand the point of your question. We're not asking whether or not they ultimately won or lost an election. We're asking whether or not this fight was good or bad. The fight can be bad, and they can still win a future election, right? So your question is not sequitur.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make to you as well about the leadership vote, the ability to self-destruct the head of the party.
I think that was bad.
Speakership.
Yes, even if he wouldn't have been ousted,
but it's not necessarily related.
Okay.
It was not a predetermined portion of the outcome. And again, let's bring this back to Democrats because we're fighting in this world where
the process itself was bad.
Why? You're going to say because of the outcome.
No, I'm not. Because you don't want it so that you can call a vote on the...
That was the outcome of the process.
No, that's the new process is being able to...
What?
The new process is being able to call a vote on whether or not you can oust your speaker with a single person.
That was at the end of the infighting. That was the outcome, not the process. That infighting moment, there are different infighting moments. Do you agree? Like, infighting is not like a continuous thing, because then we would not be able to have the start and stop of whether it was good.
Do you understand that a process implementation can be the outcome of another fight, right? The outcome of McCarthy assuming the majority speakership, the outcome was the implementation
100%.
Of a new process, and that new process was probably bad.
No, I don't think that the process is necessary. You literally did a fucking MS Paint demonstration of this, and you're failing your own 100 IQ test.
So you think that it's a good process to implement that could lead to a historic loss of control of your own House majority seat?
Did you know at the time you engaged that process that it would lead to the historic whatever you just said?
It doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? How do you have a good process by predetermining or restricting the potential set of outcomes.
If I were to install a ball shocker in the seat of your car that activates every
I don't
time
drive.
you take
have
3
a car.
right turns in a row, would it be neutral as long as you don't take 3 right turns in a row? Is that what you're
I don't
determining
take
it on?
right
Is the
turns.
outcome?
Could you say it again? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Think about what I just said.
Okay, if you install the ball shocker and I take 3 right turns,
In a row,
I
it'll
didn't-
shock your balls. But let's say you just don't take 3 right turns in a row. Does that mean you don't have an opinion about that process implementation?
do you realize that the process wasn't the fucking vote on the speakership yet?
Do you think that would be a problem if the ball
How
shocker
would
was
you
in the car?
have? How
Do
would you
think that-
implement
I'm
what
gonna
you're
ask this
talking about?
question
You realize
again.
that makes
I'm gonna
no
ask
sense,
this-
right?
Would the ball
Yeah, go
shocker be
ahead.
a problem even if it didn't shock your balls?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So why isn't the self-destruct one-member vote thing a problem, even if they hadn't
Because-
acted on it?
Because you don't know what the fight is when you go into the infighting.
Okay, then you
The
don't know if
infighting
the
was
ball
not
shock-
about that. Hold on. The infighting was not about the idea of should we be able to retract the speakership easily. The infighting was over the leadership and over the future of the party. So you're saying we should predetermine all the potential paths at the end of infighting before we have the infighting itself? That makes no sense.
No, I'm saying that if at the end of infighting, you're having to make concessions that could heavily damage you in the future, then that seems like it was a very the infighting
Yeah,
probably
that's fair.
wasn't that great.
What? Hold on. Was the infighting probably not that great?
We're gonna cut this off soon.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm in chat. I'm defending your ass. Okay, I've been.
Oh,
getting
thank you.
it.
Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate you. Chat, fuck you. Also, what's going to come next? Come on, guys. Really?
Oh, we'll find out. Final words.
I'm trying to say this to you differently because I feel like Stephen should agree with this. When we think about process separate from outcomes, we have to have a separation, a distance from whether or not that infighting was necessary and part of a movement, right? And like, okay, if there's a movement that's happening, do we cut off the movement or do we have the infight?
You can have
If then-
infighting. You're mixing a ton of things up. I think that infighting is fine. You can have infighting, but there are appropriate ways to infight, and there are inappropriate ways to infight. An appropriate way could be conversations behind closed doors. It could be like friendly but adversarial conversations on public platforms. It could be adversarial conversations on opposing platforms, but it's never going to be people who are supposed to be on your team doing hostile adversarial interviews against you. That will never, ever be a good thing. Ever. Never.
Are you not open, by the way, to the fact that the idea that the DNC and John all benefit from this having happened? I'm not saying like, oh, Ken looks good, but the idea of the DNC, the Democratic Party, of the establishment being more open to these conversations, of John being willing to have these conversations, of everyone talking about this now in the polity, of the Democratic Party in particular, is actually healthy for the party moving forward?
No,
because
that
again,
was,
if there
no,
is,
it wasn't. That was not
why?
a healthy conversation. Because
Why?
it wasn't. What do you mean? Why would it be? What was good? What good
Because-
came from it?
There's now a sense to which the people inside the party can have this sort of conversation, which means
They already could have the conversation. There's nothing keeping
No, they couldn't.
somebody.
There's no evidence of that in the past. There's no evidence of this sort of thing happening in the Democratic Party in the past, which is constantly used against establishment
You're saying
Democrats
that
by
nobody
people on the
could
left.
approach Ken and have a question about like this report or whatever that wouldn't have happened, but now that he had a conversation publicly with
No, who, where would have had this conversation?
by nature of it being an insider conversation, I wouldn't be able to answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, right, and that by nature that would sustain the credibility crisis that we're talking about. So
No,
we
it
cannot.
wouldn't. It's literally unfalsifiable. Now, John could have asked a question about that or brought that up, and that would have actually been a good point, but he didn't, which is why.
Do you not
earlier
think
I said you're
evidence of
gonna
an
struggle with
insider
this.
holding a leader to account by its nature doesn't improve credibility, especially inside of a party that
John
is
is not an
traditionally
insider
accused of
in
having
this,
a?
John is not an insider in this conversation.
Of course he is.
He's absolutely not. He's not even a delegate.
No,
He's
that's
not even a chair. He's
nonsense.
not even a member of the DNC.
Nonsense.
What are you talking about?
Nonsense.
How is he an
This is the
insider
part,
here?
Because this is the part that again the left would critique the party about and be right about. They'd be like, okay, you're literally going to mention people who are part of.
Vague, non-responsive.
How
is
how-
John
how-
an
how?
insider talking to the head of the DNC?
Because he is literally a speechwriter for Obama as part of 2 other speechwriters who then
What
created
is
a media company that
speechwriter?
then has an
When was
audience.
Obama was president 10 years ago.
And now they have infiltrated
I'm sorry,
culture. They
hold
have
on, my
micro
bad.
celebrities
What
and
does
celebrities
insider
on
mean to you?
all their
I'm sorry,
podcasts and their
I
shows.
understand. What does insider mean to you? What does that mean to you?
What does he mean to you?
No, you have the answer.
Yeah. What
No,
does
no, I'm
insider
generally-
mean to you? I'm not answering to you.
I'm
though.
thinking. I don't have a predetermined answer, so I'm
You
trying
must.
to.
If you just fought me that hard on it, how can you not have a predetermined answer?
Do you
No,
write
but you even-
everything you think down first?
Before I argue
you-
it, yeah, stringently, yeah, of course, I have in my mind a strong idea. What I
You
consider
think it's
an insider.
unreasonable that you think it's unreasonable that I can call certain people insiders or outsiders, but I don't have an immediate 2 sentences to provide you? You really think that's unreasonable?
Well, it sounds like you don't even have a bare bones concept of what an insider is in your
You
mind.
don't think I have a bare bones concept. I'm just
Yes.
thinking, okay? I want to say a set of sentences that you don't call me bad faith over. So why don't you go first?
the
Or you want me to
reason
go
why-
first? Give me a
the
sec.
reason why-
Hold on. Let me think.
Well,
Let
I'm
me
just gonna
think.
justify why I just said
No.
it. Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Let him think, Steven. This is your final thought.
Think about it.
Fuck. Fuck.
He can't think of one that includes them.
By the way, I'm not asking AI chat, you fucking idiots. I'm on video
They're
on.
retarded.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's wrong with them. Also, I know a lot of them love me, so shut the fuck up. My hands are up, and all the people inside the Discord room can see that, so I'm not asking AI anything. I think that an insider is a member who holds. Sorry, members are itself going to have a definitional problem. Well, I guess I'll always have to have something like that. Is somebody who belongs to the party, who holds a multiplier of influence that we'd say puts them on the inside.
Was Hassan an insider?
Actually, that's a great question. Let me think.
Should immediately know.
I think as of a few weeks ago, he unfortunately became an insider. I don't think it's permanent. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I think he has an undue amount of influence in the party right now, where he, for example, could ask certain people for conversations or to like see things, and they'd probably have to do it.
Do you think Hassan would describe himself as an insider?
No, of course not.
All right, Steven, any final thoughts on this?
Well, just, yeah. So an insider, in my mind, I don't know what definition you're using. I don't think anybody uses insider like this. An insider is usually somebody who has privileged access or is part of some particular group or organization that's usually obscured from the public to some extent. So like an insider, it doesn't have anything to do with influence. So like a member, like the deputy chair, I don't know if the DNC has a deputy chair, but the deputy chair of the DNC might be totally unknown publicly and might not even make public statements, but we'd be considered an insider because he's like part of an organization,
Why wouldn't we
has
just use
privileged
the word
information.
employee there?
I don't know, because they might not have well, like, for instance, Mooten is not my employee, but you maybe could consider him like an insider for like the...
Of course I would.
Consider him what, an employee?
No, an insider.
Yeah, but you wouldn't consider my employee, so that's why you wouldn't use the term.
Right, but wouldn't you consider, I mean, if we were in the Obama era and John had retired from being a speechwriter, but had started Positive Interact, I don't remember the timeline, it was after Obama, I think. Well, let's say he started it while he was still in office. He would be an insider, correct?
While he was in office?
John?
Almost certainly so.
While John was...
Yeah.
Right. So by definition, it shouldn't be that like your structural relationship to the party is the important
You
thing.
literally just gave a structural relationship. He was a
No, I said
speechwriter.
influence. I said the word influence. Undue influence.
No, it would have nothing to do because it's an influence. It would have to do with the fact that he probably has access to people like inside the party because he's the speechwriter for Barack Obama. So he's probably
Okay,
communicating with
I
these
should
people
say
with
then
inside
undue
information.
access and influence.
The influence thing has nothing to do with it. It's whether or not you have like inside information, inside information.
No, inside routes to information or to process. And again, this is why I would probably say that Hassan right now, even though he would never say it,
Hassan is absolutely not an insider. No.
Do you disagree that he has privileged access?
No, he doesn't have privileged access to like the Democratic. Here, give us 5 minutes and we're done. 5:10.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
No, I don't think Hassan has privileged access or information to the Democratic Party. You could argue that maybe he's an insider on like Al Said's campaign or whatever if he's included in any of those conversations. But even that's like a big maybe. But just having a lot of influence or doing advertisements for something doesn't make you an insider. No.
But okay, so let's go to the John Favreau question. So why would he to you not be an insider? He has very privileged access and information and access to information. As
Clearly,
in,
he
knows
doesn't. And in
people.
that interview, he showed that he knows people doesn't matter. The question is
Oh, I
whether or
didn't
not
finish
he's
the
an
sentence. I didn't
insider.
finish the sentence there. To be clear, it's not just knowing people. But go ahead.
Whatever you were going to say afterwards didn't matter, okay? He's not a member of the DNC, and he doesn't appear to have any special connection to members of the DNC.
Hold on, this interview is not a representation of his connections, right? Like, I think you're seeing this and going, okay, he clearly didn't have another pathway.
Whether or not he was
It
an
was an
insider.
assumption. It was an underbelly assumption of what you're talking about.
Do you think he's an insider for the DNC?
I think he's a Democratic Party insider.
Do you think that he's an insider for the DNC?
I think he's a Democratic Party insider.
Do you think he's inside for the DNC? Yes or no?
I think he's a Democratic Party insider. Why is this important? Let's talk about why this is important. I've never
think
said
that
that the DNC, and this is, again, the functional
I'm
purpose
just
of the
curious if you
DNC
think
is
he's
different
an
than the
insider. Do you think he's an insider for the DNC?
Who in this room has worked for the DSCC or for a Democratic Party candidate? Raise your hand. I'm raising my hand. None of the three of you are raising your hand. Correct? Okay. So when we talk about, for example, when I worked for the DSCC, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee.
So when I ask a question, you won't answer it, and then you're claiming that the question isn't even
relevant. Well, you know why?
To your
Why am I not answering it, Stephen? Why am I not answering it?
Because you think it's going to hurt your argument.
No, it's because I think it's irrelevant to my argument.
When
I say an insider, I don't mean literally at the DNC, because the way the DNC, the DSCC, the DCCC, the DSLC all work.
It's your time you're wasting. The reason why that's not true is because if it was truly irrelevant to your argument, then you would just answer it, and then we would just move on. That's why I do this tons.
Okay, fine. Ask it again. Go ahead.
Do you think that Ken Martin is an insider to the DNC?
Ken Martin?
Or not Ken Martin. Do you think that John Favreau is an insider?
No.
Okay.
I mean, what? That's never a point I've made. He's an insider of the Democratic Party, the way the party works. And if you interact with the party at all, you know this. It's cross organization departments. You have the DCCC, you have the DSCC, you have the DSLC, you have the DNC.
Sure.
You have
Is John Favreau a member of any of the organizations that you just mentioned, or does he have a special?
No, and yet he's still an insider.
So,
for example, when I worked,
I don't care about your work. If you want to waste the rest of the 2 minutes describing an irrelevant point, go for it. Or can I ask my question? Okay. Does he have a special connection to anybody in any of the organizations that you just mentioned?
You're so emotional. Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
Then why is he citing public reports for every single question that he's asking Ken Martin?
Because he thought this interview would be his moment to establish a separation from the party apparatus, which the DNC counts as. And yes, I do think he actually thought this played a role, and I do think, to your point, it was a mission that he had. And in doing that mission, he's not going to go find information for himself. He's going to
Then I agree with everything you're saying.
Make a set of assumptions about how the interview is going to go.
Sure. Then it was an outsider, hostile interview. That was my whole argument from the very
start. That doesn't make it
of this.
outsider. Hold on. That doesn't make it outsider. What about that makes it outsider?
The fact that you just said that he was unwilling or unable to gather insider
does not make
information.
him an outsider.
For that interview, it did. For the purposes of that interview, yes.
Not in any way that should matter to this conversation. If an insider if a literal employee decides to have a confrontational conversation and not use all of their privileged access to information, wouldn't suddenly call them not an employee.
It's not about being an employee. It's about that's why I said, and you can go back and listen to this conversation, by the way. That's why I said the function that he was serving in that interview was to be on the opposite team. He was representing a different team in that interview. That was his function.
I don't think so, right? And that's my point to you. This benefits the party because the party as a whole, DNC, DCCC, DSCC.
I just asked you if it benefited it, and your answer was, I guess your answer was yes, because 100%. Now some people feel like they can have the conversation they could before. It's the most tenuous, Why
do you not take that seriously? What is brain broken about you that you don't think that's important?
It's not brain broken. I think that anybody could have had the conversation before. You haven't given a single example of these types of conversations.
So where is it, by the way? Where is it? People could have had it, right? Where is it? Where is that conversation happening? Where do you have evidence that the conversation's happening? Where do you have evidence? Where's the party showing you, Stephen, that it's actually having this conversation in a way that makes you feel like you understand that they're capable of this conversation, that they're actually intellectually capable, willing to have this conversation? Where's the evidence?
Keep wasting time. So at the end of that interview, Ken Martin listed or rattled off, I think, 6 or 7 different people where he was like, oh, well, ask her how she feels, or ask this person how they feel, or ask this person how they feel, or ask this person how they feel. So those are people that he funds with DNC money. That was not about process, and that was not about internal interrogation. That was him going, hey, look at these people who are winning, which, by the way, to the point I made, Democrats always do this. They win midterms, and they say, oh, look at the great things that we're doing, and then they go lose because they might have taken the wrong lessons or aren't exposing the lessons, kind of more broadly speaking, because midterms are very different from generals. What you just said was people Ken Martin funds, he used as examples of people who like him, obviously. Okay. I mean, I can't, if that's the point you're going to bring up, I can't counter your point to the one that you brought up with no evidence. So there's no way that I can counter this. I guess it's possible that the DNC is completely and totally dysfunctional, and I'm just supposed to take that on your word with absolutely zero evidence for that claim because somebody who was doing a hostile interview said it. So
so I think you and I could sit on whatever sides of that question that we're talking about, and then we would say, okay, maybe it's good, regardless of whether you can bring evidence or I can't bring evidence, that we decide evidence itself is valuable. There's something to if PodSafe is even going to be analyzed for this, and they are, right? You and everybody else is yelling about them. Ken is going to be evaluated for this. All of this essentially means, rather than relying on, kind of, what are people going to feel in the abstract about the idea of a party being internally motivated? Well, now we get to see some of the internal mechanics play out. If it's true that people view John, and it's true, as at least some part an insider or as some part of the establishment, And these are the people that they always accuse, as they do. And as you see, by the way, the right makes these accusations too. Oh, these people are the ones still making choices for the party. These are the people who are running Biden's
the
administration.
right does this as a bad faith debate tactic because they know that it's a weak point to hit on. They don't
and
actually
I think the
believe it.
left has a good critique about this internally that is hard to address when we always hide the ball.
Okay.
So
I
again,
disagree.
I go
The
back to
right's never held to
2016.
that standard, and no other part of the entire planet has ever held to this standard. It's a ridiculous standard on its face.
Why do we have to care about whether it's ridiculous and not whether or not we just address it? So again, if it can
Because
be
if it's
used
ridiculous
against
and
us,
it's not the norm, there's probably a good reason why it's not the norm. And the reason why is because if you have
what do
all
you think
these
would happen? What do you think would happen?
conversations
Actually, this is great. This is great. This is great. This is a great point. What do you think would happen if they release this report? If it has nothing damning in it, okay, which he says over and over and over again in that stupid fucking interview.
100%.
If there's
People
nothing damning in it,
are
why
gonna-
can't we just fucking keep to the idea
people are gonna.
that
Why are you asking me and then not letting me answer the question? The reason what's going to happen is anybody is going to look to take a bite off of whatever they want of that report to further whatever their narrative is, and they're going to use it to further the infighting.
Except there's two things. One, the things that you're worried about them using as a weapon, everyone already has an opinion on. No one's going to change their mind because of the IP shit that might exist in the report.
It'll just
So
strengthen it, though.
It's not. There's no strengthening it. Everyone's already at the extremes. There's absolutely no strength. You say this all the time. People are either brain broken on this or not, in your view, and it's not going to change anyone's opinion. There's no strengthening, and so this is already the conversation. By releasing the report, you can at least we're willing to have the dialogue. At least we're willing to show you some of the data, and in addition, there's probably other interesting things there that the party, whether we talk about the apparatuses of the party, the heads of the state, or even the polity, as in the people, will benefit from seeing or find interesting or intellectually interesting and go, oh, I can trust this party more because it's not trying to hide the ball from me. So if you're saying they're going to weaponize it, you have to tell me why that matters. There's nothing that they're going to do in a weaponization that will actually harm the party. If the standard becomes everything Hassan might tweet about or do a Twitch stream about is going to be weaponized, and so we must bury anything that he's going to potentially do, that's a terrible standard. Like, what is the standard that you have?
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll see you next call in, okay?
Oh, wow.
All right. Thank you.
You're not going to respond to that?
No, you wasted all your time yapping and rambling because every time you're making a weak point and you know it's a weak point, you have to fill like 20 different filibuster things in the end to try to.
You're being cowardly. Answer my question.
I'm not being cowardly.
What's the standard of weaponization? What's the standard of weaponization?
You wanted to bring up Hassan again. I guess it's whatever Hassan tweets. That's what you just said.
So triggered.
Yes. No, you said it was whatever
All
Hassan
right.
tweets. I agree with you. That's the standard. Yes, 100%. Okay.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
Morgan.
Hello. Sorry. I'm playing League. That guy is clearly an anti-fan. That's all I have to say. There's like that guy provides no value. He's very clearly just gonna fucking betray you and be on another panel in like 2 or 3 weeks. That's it.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Morgan. Jock rates. Go ahead.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
How does my mic sound? There's a
so loud
shitload
now.
of construction happening.
That's so good.
That's good.
Outside.
Go ahead.
Okay, sweet. First of all, you guys should bring that guy on last next time because he takes a while.
I've heard that.
So 2 things that we could talk about. I'll let you guys decide.
You
Number
decide. You
one-
decide. 15 minutes left on these. Go.
All right.
You decide. Just pick a thing. Yeah.
All right, we'll go through the faster one. I have a list of some rhetorical lessons that I've heard you say that you've kind of taken away over your time debating and stuff. And I wanted to just name them and then have you, maybe Dan, Mr. Mooten, everybody here can give you a grade on how you think you've been doing on those, and then we can talk about them if you want. What do you think of that?
Sure. Pick the top 3. Go.
Okay, first one. I'll pick the top 3. Okay. In that case, let's go with this one. So, positive positions spam. This has been a discussion recently. The idea of using more positive positions. How do you think you do on that? Yeah. What would you give yourself maybe on a scale?
What
of
was the
1 to 10?
last debate that I had?
The last debate that you had? I don't remember.
I feel like I haven't had any debates recently, so it's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, what about also? I'm also in your YouTube videos. I would say that, not just in debating. Just in general, how do you think you do on that?
I would have to think back to my last debate. I'm probably better than I was in the past, but I probably could still improve on it.
Mr. Mooten and Dan, what do you guys think?
I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what your question was.
I think I generally try to point out
okay.
more positives of what like Biden and the Democratic Party accomplished, and to have like a positive position on like, look, I think that Biden did good on this. I don't think the senility was anywhere near the level you guys thought it was. I think that it's good when the United States is, playing police sometimes with other countries. I don't think that every foreign policy intervention we have is bad. Like I think I try to present a slightly more positive version of this stuff than just being on the negative side of things, or at least in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one place that I would say you can improve on this a little bit more is in your YouTube videos, because I find that in a lot of the recent videos, one I can think of is one where you're talking about Vosh is one that I can think of recently. You spend most of the videos you tearing down the other person, which is good. You're very good at that. But I think for somebody who's not a audience member, somebody who's not already a DGG or something, they kind of don't understand what you're tearing them down for and what your positive position is. I've heard you give them, so I know that you have these positive positions, but I think for somebody who's just stumbling across your channel, they might watch a video like that and just really not know what you're for, if that makes sense.
Sure.
All right.
Another one, this one is big for me. Making fun of unserious people and unserious positions. How do you think you've done on that?
As in like doing it more or doing it less?
However you think you're doing on that, if you think you should do it more or less.
I feel like I've pointed that out a lot more, but I feel like politics in general has become a lot more unserious, so.
What's your position on that, Color?
I think that you are doing a lot better about that recently, but I think you can push it with certain people, especially. I think you can push it much harder than you are. So like an example I can think of is there was a time, I think it was maybe a month ago, maybe more. You were debating a couple of conservatives and they hit you with the classic, I don't know about that. And then you just reflected it back to them when they started talking about the next thing. You just hit them with I don't know about that. I don't know what you're talking about. To kind of like show them how ridiculous what they were doing was. I think that was great. That was very funny. It really shut them up after that. But I think in general, you can maybe draw in more people by memeing on these people more. So like, for example, projection is a big thing that I see all the time when you're talking to conservatives or just a lot of people in general. You can see a lot of projection happening. I think it'd be funny as hell if you had something like a projector screen in the background that you could turn on. It says projection. Or when somebody does a dog whistle, if you like pulled out a whistle or something like that. Just like little funny memes, I think could make good clips and extend your reach in things like YouTube videos, shorts, and I think it really does point out how ridiculous other people are.
Okay.
We'll get him a whistle.
I'll keep that in mind.
I like the whistle idea. I thought that'd be fun.
Okay.
And then the last one, since we're only doing 3, utilizing bad faith tactics, or maybe more generally learning from the bad faith tactics of your opponents. Do you think you should be using some of those tactics, like the things that you've picked up on other people doing? Or is it like
probably not? I think they generally just annoy me,
from?
and I probably don't want to. But like being able to counter them more effectively and holding people to answer questions or whatever better is, I think, always good. I think I do a better job of that than I used to several years ago. But that's the thing I can always improve on.
Okay, what do you think about, dude? My queen, Hillary Clinton. The public-private positions. What about? Are there positions that you think should be held more privately and others that should be held more publicly? Because I think a lot of the positions I hear you have, I think are very good policy positions, but they don't really resonate well in a general way. So what do you think about that? Are there positions that you think maybe you like to keep within the stream, within the DGG audience, keep it a little more quiet, and then other positions that are easier to argue or more generally appealing that you think are something you'd like to blast out more?
Maybe, but I mean, like, I'm not running for office, so I don't care as much about having some unpopular opinions, since it's not like I'm going to lose an election based on it. But like, depending on the platform I'm on, I'm generally just going to speak about it. It really just depends on what we're talking about. But I'm not about to go to some debate forum and then, like, rattle off my most conservative economic policy positions or something, or talk about things that I know are super unpopular with the audience that I'm speaking to. It just depends, I guess, on the platform. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do a pretty good job of picking and choosing what you're gonna fight on and based on the audience, what about in the broader Democratic Party? Are there positions that you think should stay private, but you still think maybe are good positions, and other ones that we should be pushing on a lot harder?
Like as for the Democratic Party as a whole?
Yeah, I think maybe an easier way to think of it is maybe in buckets of like green would be a position that any Democrat period should be championing. Yellow is maybe a position that can be public in some districts, maybe not so much in a more conservative district, and like a red position is something that maybe you would support, but you don't think Democrats should talk about it.
I don't know. I'd have to think a lot about this. I do think that we have to get rid of the Trump tax cuts, and that's probably going to be an unpopular position, so maybe that would have to be a thing that you don't talk about as much. And then I think that things like packing the Supreme Court or getting rid of the filibuster might not be good things to run on, but are probably important things that we should be pushing for. But, yeah.
What are the big winners rhetorically, you think?
I don't know. Anything involving fucking billionaires or APAC, I guess.
Okay.
Jew.
Yeah.
Jew.
Excuse
All right.
me.
All right, we're
Thanks,
gonna move
guys.
on because we got a ton of people and
Definitely.
appreciate
Peace.
it.
Have a good day.
Love you.
Wrecking Ball, come on in.
Hey man, how you guys doing?
Good.
Can hear the stress in your guys' voice. It's a time right now.
We're never stressed.
So I won't take too long, and that was a long conversation previously that I only caught the end of. But I guess overall, at this point, that Jon Favreau interview was atrocious, but it happened.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, do you think it just makes more sense to just release it because there's no winning? Like we were never going to win before, but now there's really no winning, and now we're just taking flack for not releasing it, even though there probably was good reasons to not release it to begin with. But at this point, it almost feels like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But at least you can salvage some level of that quote unquote credibility.
If
that
they
everyone talks
I can
about
give you,
worthless.
and I'll bet, I'll bet you 2-1 on this, or anybody. If they were to release that report, no matter what's in there about Israel-Palestine, the lefty, weird, tanky people are going to repeat that ad nauseum all the way up to and maybe even through the midterms, 100%. No matter what they say. So, like, why release it? I mean, like nobody really cares that much about it aside from the people that are harping on it over and over again on the far left. Like, I don't think there are going to be voters like in the midterms in like local races. When I say local, I mean like for the House of Representatives, where it's like the Republican is like, how are you going to trust this guy when Ken Martin, he's part of the DNC, that's like the Democratic National Committee, that's like the people who kind of like, well, it's not. Well, yeah. Anyway, they had an autopsy. They did not a real autopsy, but like a report of why they lost the last election, and they didn't release that report. Like, no one's going to give a fuck about this. Literally, nobody will care about this.
The counterpoint is, I completely agree. It doesn't matter what's in there. They're going to get their talking points out from it. But the counterpoint to that, I think, would be, it doesn't matter what's in there. So, like, at this point, if you release it, no one's going to care whatever the Israel-Palestine stuff is. If it's damning or not, it doesn't matter, right? That's not going to sway people. But I do think you will see much more mainstream push from the Fox and I'll say just general mainstream media about the DNC not being transparent. Because it's a BS crap that we see right now.
I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe somebody can go find articles. The first articles I'd seen them talking about it were talking about Jon Favreau's interview about it with Ken Martin. Maybe the Republicans have brought it up in the past, but like that would be a crazy thing. The Republicans are so not transparent.
I don't think it'd be the Republicans, though. I think it's the problem. I think it would be like your CNNs and your ABCs now that are going to bring it up.
Well, yeah, that's because they're fucking retarded.
Fox.
But I mean, like, if anybody that would retardedly bring that up is also probably also going to jump on the Israel-Palestine shit or whatever else they see in there. Like, it's just everybody's going to take a chunk at it, and they're just going to use it to, like, nothing good will ever come from releasing a thing like that publicly. It just would never, ever, ever happen. It's always everybody's going to take a bite out of the piece that they want, and they're going to use it to further the fight. Right now, they can fight about it not being released. If it gets released, though, there's going to be so many different people. I imagine they could just take a chunk out of some particular part and then fight with it. So I think you just bury it, ignore it. Some people rumble, groan about it, and you just move on from it. But
so then, as a counter to that, I would say then, is there benefit in ironically fragmenting the things that people are taking a chunk out of? Right. So right now, there's only one message, which is the DNC did not release the stupid report, right? That's the only thing anyone's going to say. If it is released...
The future message will be like, oh, leftist... they probably... Oh, we'll call him leftist. Leftist Jon Favreau was able to get the report released. What a hero. And now we learn about Gaza. It's a lose situation now.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I just... At this point, I almost feel like it's just... It was stupid. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. And I almost feel like there's more to be gained by releasing it simply because it causes the angles of attack to be more fragmented and easier to deal with than right now.
The angles of attack are only effective, though, if you play into them. Like, if you just ignore it, nobody would give a fuck. Nobody even knows what the DNC is. Nobody knows who Ken Martin is, and nobody knows what this autopsy is. It's only effective as long as people are amplifying the attacks. The far left will, because that's what they do, because they want to destroy the Democratic Party. But other than that, like, nobody's gonna... I don't think anybody cares that much. Unless you also amplify, which unfortunately the Senate does because they're fucking retarded. But if you just don't amplify the attacks, then nobody's gonna give a fuck.
I haven't looked recently because it's been a weekend, but has there been mainstream pickups on this besides Jon Favreau? Like, I'd be curious to dig through and see, like, has this
Jon Favreau is not mainstream.
I think Axios had
I
a
mean, like,
report
CNN
on it.
talking about it, or Axios talking about the DNC not releasing it prior to Jon Favreau.
Yeah, there was an Axios thing, I think, that mentioned it, but in terms of, like, serious media coverage, I don't think people are talking about this too much.
No one on CNN is fucking spouting off about this in a 5-minute segment. It's a nothing.
Probably not. That is the oddly weird benefit of the absurd time we live in. There's always so much more shit going on that's way worse.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, true.
That was it. I just wanted to, talk about that. But also I'll say, man, I know it's stressful. I know you're tired. I can't imagine how absurd it is for you to deal with all that, but keep on keeping on, man. A lot of people are looking to you to keep driving forward on that piece. And I know it's a lot of responsibility, but people do appreciate it. Like, you built a community.
I needed to hear that.
Well, thanks a lot, buddy. I think.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Be careful.
No, he was talking to me.
Fuck you.
All right, Hussein, come torture him.
Oh, what's up? Hi.
Hello.
What's up, guys?
Hi, what's up?
I was gonna ask you about. I don't know how much time you have. It was a while, but if you wanted to get into like a religion conversation, if you're down for that.
What about it?
I don't.
I was gonna ask you about your. I know it's been a while. As your previous takes on Islam from a. That's actually how I started watching you, because I was in a teenager like Salafist arc. So, I was watching like Ali Dawa, and he kind of like put me towards your channel, and actually, it kind of made me a liberal. Like oh my god, this guy sucks, and I'm like, I watched him like, yeah, he got some good points, but I was just wondering, do you still have the same positions you had during that arc, or have you kind of like mediated it a little bit?
I have no idea what positions in particular are you talking about.
Okay, so the positions that interrupt me if you think I'm wrong. Essentially, your positions during that arc was that you were saying that while Christianity is bad, a lot of people don't talk about Islam or the bad things about Islam as much, especially in liberal or left-wing circles. And you highlighted some of the things you thought that were bad in Islam, such as like the marriage between Aisha and Muhammad, and like the punishments towards like things such as thievery or sexual assault or
I think the
nature,
point I was bringing up back
aspects.
then, this would have been a long time ago, I'm imagining, right? My issue back then was it was this weird thing where everybody in the West, as a response to legitimately a lot of Islamophobia from conservative people, you had this weird like progressive obsession with trying to defend Islam, and like I know the like wearing hijab became like a huge focal point where every feminist all of a sudden, or like these like woke people on the left were like, oh, actually Islam is beautiful and all of these things are beautiful, and it just got super cringe, and I thought it was a huge like retarded overreaction to conservatives being legitimately Islamophobic.
But do you think now with the conservatives like legitimately like going like fucking like orders of magnitude worse in terms of their Islamophobia, especially like we just watched that thing, you just put up the Trump thing with Ilhan Omar calling Somalis like animals or whatever, like talking about like us like the worst place on earth. Do you think now those arguments were not vindicated but kind of made more sense considering what led to what's happening now?
No, I think the West, I think the weird wokey arguments were still fucking retarded. But I mean, like, you can still fight against Islamophobia. I would have to contextualize, like, what is even happening right now in terms of the concern. I don't know if it's even Islamophobia, or I feel like it's just racism, or racism plus xenophobia and nationalism. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I think actually, I don't think most like people who criticize. I'll glaze you for a second. I do think you have some good criticism of Islam, which is what kind of brought me out of that. But I think the vast majority of people who do criticize Islam, I don't think it's coming from a place of like genuine intellectual like rigor. It's coming from a place of like, oh, these people are weird and different and they have a different culture than us. Because like when you see a lot of criticism of Islam, the criticisms are not levied on Islamic theology. It's levied on Arab culture,
Sure.
and Arab cultural aspects.
And usually the worst
So
of
I
Arab
think-
culture in like the worst countries.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly my point. So I do think that there are some good criticisms of that, but I feel like also like the the Minecraft pickaxe meme that was a little bit spicy. I would say that's kind of the main thing that was remembered about that specific arc of yours.
Sure.
And
although at that point, my
I
main
think
issue with Islam was basically that for a lot of the Red Pill arc, you had this thing coming up where, like online, a lot of Muslims were super big on the Red Pill shit because they were picking up like some celebrities, and I think that Muslims are just happy if anybody's willing to kind of like cast their lot in with.
It's so
people.
fucking retarded. Bro.
Yeah,
like,
so like Andrew Tate and all
dude,
these
like,
people were
the
hugely celebrated figures, and yeah, it was annoying me.
It's just weird because like a lot of Muslims are just like, oh my god, like soy point, they just fucking converted to our religion, and Andrew Tate's legit gambling in fucking like Romania or whatever the fuck he is, and like fucking Sneeko is still like being gay, and like a lot of people are still like being like drinking alcohol. I'm like, dude, they're not following the rules, they're just doing it because you guys are fucking gullible,
Yeah.
and you guys you just love when someone converts to their religion. It's just kind of cringe.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, I guess there isn't that much disagreeing. I guess another point. If sorry, Mutin, for DMing you and bullying and fucking harassing you. Okay. Another point I want to bring up is the Syria point. I've been following the development in Syria recently. Do you think that Trump abandoning the Kurds was a good or bad thing? And let's just start from there. Let's just get your position on Trump abandoning the Kurds.
I think bad.
And then that's the last. You think it was bad? Do you know much about like the PKK, YPG, the Syrian Democratic Forces, and kind of the shenanigans they get up to in eastern Syria?
Yeah. What about
it? Recently, with the agreement between the Syrian central government under Ahmed al-Shara, Mohammed al-Jalani, whatever you call him, a lot of the SDF forces were kind of integrated into the new Syrian army, and what's resulted from that is that the more radical, like not communists, it's the PKK is a weird entity, but I do think they're socialist adjacent. This weird sect of PKK and YPG, like militants, started going underground and started performing acts of terror on Syrian government institutions, and those are mainly people who are ethnically Kurdish, yes, but they're doing so in sort of like a Kurdish like secular nationalism against like the conservative Islamic like almost economic neoliberalism of the Shara regime. So I guess I just want to bring this up to kind of like counteract. Like I don't think Trump should have just completely abandoned the Kurds and just like fuck them really hard. I do think the Kurds are kind of like
well, to be clear, my understanding is that there were Kurdish fighters in Syria that we had like worked with. We'd been working with Kurds throughout the Middle East, especially when we were fighting against ISIS. I understand that the KRG is a different entity than in Iraq is a different entity than like the YPK or the PPK or the YPG. Or the PPK?
PKK and YPG
and
the Syrian Democratic Forces.
Yeah, I understand that they're different, but like broadly, we'd like worked with Kurds in Syria and in Iraq when fighting ISIS. I think we kind of sort of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge them when they were fighting Syria. And then obviously Turkey has a huge problem with the, I think with the PKK Kurdish
existence of Kurds.
Yeah, well, and the PKK especially, they get into a lot of antics against each other. And we basically, when we withdrew from Syria, whatever forces we had there, it's not that we abandoned them to even get killed by Assad. It's that we abandoned them to let our own ally Turkey just basically fucking run a train on them through. Yeah, which is just like they're our ally. We can't control anything. Why? Because Trump just didn't care, didn't know. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, I think that was bad. I think it's something about we did the same kind of in Afghanistan apparently, where we abandoned a lot of our people like that we had worked with as well and promised visas to and everything else. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Afghanistan is also very complicated. But I guess my main point was like, yeah, the Kurds kind of just did get shafted by Trump, but I don't think I don't think they should be glamorized in the same way, like in the fashion they are in the West. Like at these secular freedom fighters who never
No,
do
that's
any wrong. A lot of,
retarded.
like, the
Everything in the
characters-
Middle East
Yeah.
is insanely complicated, and it's why it's stupid. And I always criticize people like, do you really want to help these? Or like, I think people are saying like, well, the new leader of Syria like used to be in the Taliban or Al Qaeda or some shit, and it's like sometimes these
He was in
whatever it is. Sometimes he's like Al Qaeda in I don't even know if. I could be wrong on this, but like, I don't even know if Al Qaeda in Yemen even had many connections to. There's a name for the Al Qaeda in Yemen. I forget what it might be called. Al Qaeda in Yemen, but I don't even know if they had strong connections to like Al Qaeda that existed in Afghanistan or like it just. There are so many different groups, and people can move between forces. And it's like, yeah, when people get super critical of saying like one guy's a good guy, one guy's a bad guy because they fought with this or that, in the Middle East is really retarded, I think.
Well, let me provide some context. Al Qaeda in Yemen was called Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It was kind of headed, and he's like the religious leader. The main one was Anwar al-Awlaki. He was the American citizen Obama kind of fucking murked.
Sure.
And then also like they say Ahmed al-Shara, he was part of ISIS or Al Qaeda. He was part of Jabhat al-Nusra, and Jabhat al-Nusra was an Al Qaeda affiliate. The reason why people say he was part of ISIS is because of misconception. A lot of the fighters, when Jabhat al-Nusra and was being making its leeway into Syria as like a force against Assad, during this time, Al Qaeda and ISIS had a split between each other. So there was like a religious political dispute between Ayman al-Zawahiri and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and eventually that just led to a lot of ISIS fighters. Jabhat al-Nusra fighters leaving Jabhat al-Nusra because they're Al Qaeda affiliated and joining ISIS. So it's like a misconception. Jalali was never part of ISIS. He was never formally really a part of Al Qaeda. He was just a part of Jabhat al-Nusra, which is an Al Qaeda affiliated group. And then he went and he formed Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which is less more moderate but more staunchly conservative Islamic militant group, and then he formed the Syrian government. So there's a lot. I completely agree with you. There's a lot of missing context that people have, and they just kind of be like, okay, this guy was sort of part of this group, so he's bad forever now. I don't know. Even though I'm like pretty liberal, I am a Ahmed al-Shara simp. I think he's doing pretty well for the country.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that's all. Well,
all right.
Much love. Love you, chat. Love you, Moot. Thank you, Prime Man.
Mashallah.
Be careful.
Mashallah, brother. Mashallah. Okay, bye-bye.
That's it.
All right.
Are you heading out, Steve?
Yeah, I got things. I love you guys. It's been fun. I will be back.
We'll do more tomorrow.
I mean, yeah.
Woohoo!
Woo! Woo! Stay safe. Be careful. I love you very much. Don't die.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We're back tomorrow. Be careful.